going back to 1977 on this Thursday, the 22nd of January, because it was on January 22nd, 1977, that Mr. Paul, no, wait a minute, Sir Paul McCartney went he wasn't a sir back then, but you know what I'm getting at. Sir Paul McCartney went number one on the U.S. album chart on this day in 1977 with his triple live album, Wings Over America. Because, you see, a double live album isn't enough for Sir Paul McCartney. That was his sixth number one album after his time with the Beatles. And the song, Maybe I'm Amazed, was on the second cut, or the side B. I don't know. Do you have a side C when it's a triple album? Anyway, Maybe I'm Amazed. From the album Wings Over America, a number one album on this date in 1977. And a very good Thursday morning to you. I don't think you were amazed, not one little bit, last night when the Kitchener Rangers scored an overtime goal to beat the Windsor Spitfires. I don't think you were amazed at all, because that's sort of the thing that the Kitchener Rangers do in Windsor, isn't it? That's the way the playoffs ended last year. Same way in overtime. Luke Ellenis had the goal in that one. Jack Pridham got the goal last night. Your Kitchener Rangers have won 5 in a row. And we made our way home down the snowy and blowy highways of southern Ontario. It actually wasn't too bad. And when you've got the Moose at the wheel, like, come on with your coming on, okay? If there is a better bus driver in the Ontario Hockey League, I am yet to meet him. I'm yet to find him. Our boy, Mike Reeves, a.k.a. the Moose, can drive that bus like nobody's business. So we got home, cleaned off the car, drove home, got up this morning about 3.5 hours after going to bed. And guess what I got to do? I got to clean off the car again. But wait a minute. I promise, I'm not going to do the complaining thing. Here's something interesting, though. You may know a little bit about Windsor insofar as its weather patterns, climate conditions. It is most often much less snowier than we are here in the region. And that was the case. There wasn't as much snow in Windsor as there is here. But I'll tell you what, it was snowier than I expected it to be. I had my running shoes with me for a walk down by the water when we arrived on Tuesday afternoon, because I thought it's just going to be dry pavement, cold but dry. It wasn't so dry. And then yesterday when we were at the game, one of the folks we rode the elevator with was talking about how she got her shovel out that day, yesterday, in Windsor for the first time in 3 years, because she says usually it just snows and then rains, and snows and then rains. You don't need a shovel. Well, they needed a shovel yesterday in Windsor because it's the winter wallop that nobody asked for. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that when it comes to the condition of our roads here in the region. I'm going to warn you, okay? I'm a little bit frustrated. I'm a wee bit annoyed, to be perfectly honest. I'll get to that, but I like to start with our phone lines because they're open the minute we start the show. And if you call, I want to hear from you. I want to have the conversation, hear what's on your mind. So Paul is with us, Farwell's Force member number 211. Morning, Paul.
Morning, Mike. I heard you talking about the Rangers, and I wanted to give a little shout out and a little thank you. We all spend, myself included, a little too much time on a screen doing something stupid. And yesterday, you were talking about going to the game, and I got home last night. Long story short, I got home last night, and I put the game on my tablet and listened to it. I didn't watch it. I listened to it. I even had a couple of the grandkids down there, and before they had to go to bed, they were listening to it for a while. And what a treat to just use a different part of the brain and enjoy the game, and obviously enjoy an overtime win. Just wanted to say thanks, Mike, and a shout-out to the Rangers.
Paul, I love it. Good on you. What a great picture you just painted there. Use a little bit of a different part of the brain, eh? And you tuned in for the audio call of that game last night with Josh Piercy and I at the WFCU Center. I don't believe, though, that you do dumb things on your screen, Paul. I'm sure you just use your screen for the very best of purposes. Doug is with us this morning on the phones as well. Good morning, Douglas.
Good morning, Mike. Since we're going back to back from 211 to 212.
Wait, what? Are you 212? I did. Okay, hang on. As a matter of fact, you are, my friend.
That's pretty good. So speaking of pictures, I saw your post about doing the show in Windsor and making use of the microwave. I had to laugh because for several years up in Collingwood, my wife and I got billeted with a family out in the country, and the bedroom we slept in downstairs was kind of sparse, and we got home and it was dark. We wanted watching a movie. Guess I won't tell you what kind of movie it was because it was an Elvis movie, but we couldn't put the laptop in the right place, so guess what we stuck on top of the dresser? The microwave.
Perfect. So, see, there you go. Great minds.
I had a laugh about that. Can I quick ask you a question? Did I miss something? Mr. Trump beats us over the head with tariffs, belittles us, insults us, and then has the gall to tell us that we're ungrateful because we get all these freebies. I don't get that.
All right, Doug. Well, anyway. I'm glad you asked because we will be talking about it a little over an hour from now, just after 10:30 this morning. And in fairness, if I'm going to be honest with you here this morning, and it's the only way I know how to be, freebies. Do we defend ourselves or are we defended? Is somebody defending on our behalf? Are we comfortable in our security because we've got our neighbor next door who keeps us protected militarily, if you will? So there might be a case, at least in some respects. But again, just after the 10:30 news this morning, we'll talk more about it because that was quite a rambling and sometimes incoherent speech from the president, wasn't it? Almost 1 hour long. And the man, I don't know. Anyway, that's for after the 10:30 news this morning. We'll get into more of it. Walter is with us on the phone this morning, too. Good morning, Walter.
Good morning there, Mike. Congratulations on your victory last night on the road.
Thank you. I had a lot to do with it, let me tell you. Yeah.
Almost had a twofer.
Almost right? What? Sorry?
Almost had a twofer. Almost, Kitchener won in overtime. The Leafs lost in overtime.
Ah, yes.
So, Mike, I have a question for you.
Yes,
I have to go to Windsor today. How long did it take you guys, to get down or back, or can you recall, or is everything a blank?
Well, listen, it's harder for me to keep track because Moosey does the driving. But no, it was pretty smooth. It was 3-ish hours, probably a little bit less. Certainly going down. Yeah, maybe a little bit more coming home last night because we had some blowing here and there, but not too bad.
Okay, yeah, I have to go down there this afternoon for an OCAA game, and so I'll be coming home late, and I just wanted to make sure that if you said it's good, Mike, well then that's all the convincing I need.
You got my stamp of approval, buddy.
Oh, okay, well, thanks.
All right, safe travels to you, and thanks for calling in this morning. I should go back to what Doug said about putting the microwave in my hotel room to good use. So I did the show from Windsor yesterday, and if you missed the post on our Facebook page, that probably sounds foreign to you. What the heck is Doug talking about with the microwave? The post is still there if you want to go check out the picture, facebook.com/The Mike Farwell Show. But as you know, this show is both on radio and TV with our colleagues at Rogers TV Cable 20. So when I do the show remotely, I do it via Zoom using my laptop, and I want the shot for the camera to look as good as possible. And the desk in the hotel was pretty low, so I was either going to be shooting up my nostrils or I had to find a way to kind of get the camera at a better eye level to present a better shot for Rogers TV to use. And the best thing I could find, and it worked actually perfectly, was the microwave to put my laptop on top of so that the shot looked a little bit better if you were watching yesterday on Rogers TV. So you can thank the microwave. I believe it was a Panasonic doing its job, not reheating coffee or making popcorn, but hoisting the camera so that you could have a better picture on Rogers TV yesterday if you were watching there. And by better, I mean only as good as it gets with this face for radio invading your TV screen every day. Okay, before we get to our Farwell Show 5, if I could take a moment, I've been getting a little bit frustrated here. So yesterday morning on the show, we talked to Cambridge City Councillor Helen Schwery about a motion that she is bringing forward to Cambridge Council to look at the way the city is going about its business of clearing snow from streets, sidewalks, etc. Because there have been a lot of complaints in Cambridge this year. And I will say kudos to the city for acknowledging that Cambridge has been really upfront about the challenges that it has been having. It has extended snow events to try to get around parked vehicles, clear these streets. The leftover leaves from the fall curbside pickup, which I cannot stand, was a factor early on in this winter. It just goes on from there. But Cambridge has been pretty upfront saying, listen, we got some challenges. We're having a hard time this year. And so Councillor Schwery wants to investigate why and what the city might be able to do about it. And I think that's a terrific direction to move. In Guelph, and I told you about this on the show yesterday towards the end, because Guelph Mayor Cam Guthrie posted on X about the audit that's coming up in February, so really just a couple weeks' time, in Guelph to look at that same thing. How are we doing in snow maintenance? Does the budget need to be increased, et cetera, et cetera? Because also in Guelph, there have been challenges presented this year. So they're taking a look at it there as well. And I had reached out before we scheduled Councillor Schwery in Cambridge yesterday. I had reached out to the city of Kitchener, and I've got some long-standing relationships there. And I thought, it shouldn't be too difficult to get somebody from the operations department on the show with us to talk about snow clearing, right? And listen, I get that nobody wants to be on the receiving end of criticism, but fair is fair here. And if you're doing a job that virtually everybody in the city relies upon in one way or another, if it's not going the way that it should, we, as the people trying to get around the snow-filled city, deserve a little bit of an explanation in that regard. And I've been the guy sitting here all winter long defending the work that's being done. And this is not about anybody trying to, I don't think anybody's trying to do a bad job. I don't think anybody's slacking off. But the reality is that the job's just not up to snuff this year. It's just not. And I think we deserve to know the answers to that. And I also think, look, I'll tell you two more things, I think. One is that anybody, virtually anybody, can make 7, 8, 10 minutes tops time in their day, no matter how busy they are or think they are, to come on the show and have a conversation. It's 10 minutes. It's a phone call. We have these phones that we carry in our pockets. We can call from anywhere. I think we can always, I believe that. The other thing I think, in fairness, is that we, as residents of this city, and quite frankly, this country, we know that winter comes, okay? And I don't think we should expect the kind of service, quite frankly, we've been getting from plows for many, many years now. I've actually complained about this before. We set the bar in the middle of winter at bone dry pavement with a white film on it because of all of the ding-dang salt we use to keep it that way. Like we have this expectation. We have baked in the expectation. And I get it, liability and all of this, that, and the other thing, but it's winter. We, as residents of this community, this country, should take some ownership of the challenges that the weather presents. And Sean sent me an email to that effect. Farwell's Force member number 165 writes to Mike at 570news.com. I have winter tires on my vehicle. I have not experienced any real issues so far this winter season. You just need to adjust for conditions. If you're using summer or all-season tires, expect issues. There is no substitute for winter tires. And you know what, Sean? I'm with you. I got up this morning and came to work on the expressway that was actually snow-filled. Like it was barely track there. And I was surprised by that. I don't think you got too much snow yesterday. And the snow that you did get came during the day. I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I rolled in about 1:30, 1:45 this morning from Windsor. And there was not any snow coming down. There was more in the few hours I was at home before coming back to work because I had to clean off the car, but certainly nothing that would suggest that the expressway can't be plowed a little bit better than it was. But you know what? I had snow tires on. I was not slipping, sliding, or otherwise having any difficulty. So I think there is a level of responsibility on us as people who live in this climate. But Cambridge is moving forward looking at things. Guelph has talked about moving forward and looking at things. And when our request to the city of Kitchener was denied yesterday, nobody could be made available for the show. We got a lengthy email back from the communication staff in Kitchener that simply outlined how the city approaches its snow clearing, which is all well and good. We can look that up online anytime. The point is, it ain't working this year. And I think we should at least acknowledge that we're trying to find out why. Do we not have enough plows? Do we not have enough people to drive the plows? Is the salt shortage impacting our ability to clear? Is this just the kind of winter weather that we're not accustomed to getting? And then what's the plan? What's the plan to do better? Are we just going to hope the next winter isn't like this one? Because last time I checked, hope wasn't a plan. We did get a little bit more information from the city of Kitchener just before I came on the air today. As of January 21st, which is yesterday, 7 snow events have been declared, resulting in greater demand on city staff, equipment, and resources like sand and road salt since early in the winter season. Fine. But why? Why are we having a hard time with this? Why? I would just like some answers to why. I can see I've struck a chord. So you know what? I'll hold off on the Farwell Show 5 for now. We'll take a quick break and come back and take your calls, okay? Because I want to hear from you on this. I don't think I'm being unfair in saying I know why you do things the way you do, but it's not working this year, and I think we deserve to know what's going wrong. It's the Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. All right, I'm shifting priorities here on the show this morning, too, just like I think we might have to do when it comes to snow clearing. Your Farwell Show 5 can wait a little longer because I like hearing from you on the show. And Mike is with us, Farwell's Force member number 37. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Mike. As you know, I live up in Bruce County now, and our snow clearing is actually better than in the city. I see a snowplow twice a day up here on our roads, my road out the back. However, as you know, we're in the snow belt. We have snow squalls all the time. And one of the first, I've had snow tires for 10 years, but up here in Bruce County, Highway 21 is closed today. Highway 9 is closed today. You cannot not go with snow tires up here. Snow tires are not an option, and you also have to, realize just because you have snow tires and all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive vehicle, the whiteouts can get pretty bad up here as well too. So you got to take your time, pack your patience, and realize that if it's a 2-hour trip, you want to go somewhere, it's probably a 3.5-hour trip. The other thing that is personal pet peeve of mine is people driving down the middle of the road in a snow-covered road, right smack down in the middle of the road. Before Christmas, a lady did that to me, and I ended up in the ditch because I had to pull over to the right, and unfortunately the right tire got caught in the ditch. But please don't drive in the middle of the road. That's my request, Mike, for the day.
All right, Mike, I appreciate that. And again, you're not wrong. We, as the users of the roads and the sidewalks, et cetera, have to accept some level of responsibility. It is winter, after all. Barbara, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. I'm going to have to disagree with you on the plow situation. I don't know anything about, how the plows are deployed and all that kind of thing. But I will say we can't afford to provide 100% level of service 100% of the time. We are going to have outlier years, which this one is. We can't just buy 5 more plows and employ 10 more guys that are going to end up sitting around on low snow years. So whether the plows are being deployed correctly, I can't comment on, but I will say we can't expect 100% level of service on all our services because we can't afford it. It's not feasible.
You know what? I think you're absolutely right. And I appreciate that. All I'm saying is, because I want to squeeze some nickels together here too. You know how I like to save money and I'm cheap. What I'm saying is I want the answer. I want the answer to why it's not working. Are we just saying it's a particularly bad winter? Okay. I'm not asking you to hire 5 more people or buy 15 more plows. I want to know why it's not working. Because the expressway was snow covered today. We didn't get that much snow yesterday. John, good morning.
Hi, Mike, number 67. I won't talk about the fact that you only got 1 point last night, but I want to talk a little bit about the roads. To Mike's call, I'm up in Bruce County as well. Number 9 is open, by the way. Mike said it was closed. I'm traveling number 9 right now to get into Kincardine. But I want to say the worst stretch of highway is from Elmira to Listowel. It is a sheet of ice, and it's every year that way. I've been up here in Kincardine now for about 12 years. Always an ardent listener to the Mike Farwell show, no matter where I go in this country. But I will say that whoever maintains that piece of highway, 86 from Elmira to Listowel, they're not either paying their tax dollars or they're not paying their tow truck drivers, or they're not the tow truck drivers, the snowplow drivers, because it is just a sheet of ice. I don't know why it continues to be that way every year. There are years in the past I've been driving and a big tractor trailer will just all of a sudden veer off the road because of the ice. So I don't know if that's part of Waterloo region and the tax structure there, but that is, for me, the worst part of driving in this southwestern Ontario area.
All right, John, I got to run to get to a news update, but that would be a regional road. Again, just looking for some answers here as to why things are as bad as they are. Maybe it's just a bad winter. I don't expect perfection, but we're not getting what we usually get, that's for sure. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
This is where today's topics turn into today's talking points. It's local and it's Democratic radio at its finest. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
My concerns with this suggestion that we pass a municipal bylaw is that it is duplication. And ultimately, it is work that could very easily be overturned by the provincial government because this is squarely within provincial jurisdiction. We know that. That's very clear.
The Mike Farwell Show continues
on 570 News Radio.
That is Waterloo Mayor Dorothy McCabe at Waterloo Council's meeting earlier this week when she was the lone voice opposed to a renoviction bylaw in the city of Waterloo. While staff was opposed as well, their recommendation in a report was to not move forward with such a bylaw, but with the exception of Mayor McCabe, council wanted to do just that, create a renoviction bylaw in the city of Waterloo. Hans Roach is the Ward 3 councillor in Waterloo, joins us to talk about it. Hans, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing quite well.
Glad to hear.
Thanks for giving me a couple minutes.
No, happy to do so, because love to get your perspective on this, obviously as someone who voted in favor. Why do you think the city should do the province's work, Hans?
You know, that's very interesting. And like, I'm going to agree with you right away. Evictions are provincial. The landlord-tenant board decides evictions. The city doesn't. But you know what the city can do? They licensing and compliance. We can't be the judge, but we can make sure the rules aren't being gamed. You know, we have the tools of licensing standards, compliance, just to deter bad faith behavior before it reaches that point.
According to the staff report, that bad faith behavior that you talk about is happening in less than 1% of rental units across the entire city. So to coin a phrase that I've heard used around the radio station here, is the juice worth the squeeze, Hans? We're talking about $1 million for taxpayers to deal with 34 bad faith actions.
That's interesting, Mike. I like that term. Because small on paper doesn't mean small in real life. There's formal filings, and then there's informal pressure. Landlord will say, take this cash and go. We'll make life miserable. The renovations are coming. We can't guarantee your safety. The script. So a lot of people leave before it ever comes a neat little number on a spreadsheet that comes to our city. We've had delegates come and say, yeah, there's 10 people gone. They're not even complaining about it. And if it's a small number, Mike, how many families do we need to say too bad before we admit we have a problem?
You just passed the budget, just went through budget deliberations in the city of Waterloo, and now this adds more money onto the tax roll. Why do you think that's okay for residents?
Well, Mike, I love math, and I'm a numbers guy, and I think my record. I'm the tax hawk on council. I have never voted for a tax hike in Waterloo, and that's why, I'm the only person, as I said, who voted against raising taxes. And, I'm basically the designated driver at the budget party. But here's the thing. Housing instability is not free. If a tenant gets pushed out and ends up couch surfing or in a shelter or in a crisis, taxpayers pay anyway, just later, and usually more. Mike, you may be of this age, or maybe some of your listeners are. Remember that Fram oil filter commercial back in the 70s and 80s, pay me now or pay me later. I think it's one of the most conservative things that we could do is cover this now before we are, dealing with people in shelters and such. And with going back to, your intro, and the mayor said it doubles up on work. Think of it this way. Here's an analogy. The province sets the traffic laws, but the city puts up stop signs and speed bumps when people are getting hurt. I'm not trying to replace the Traffic Act. I'm trying to stop the crashes on our street. And, jurisdiction, as the mayor had noted, jurisdiction isn't comfort to a tenant facing displacement. While we keep pressing the province, residents need protection now, and municipalities are the first place they turn.
You mentioned, Hans, and since you brought it up, you being the tax hawk voting against tax increases in the city, 27% in this term for Waterloo Council, far and away the highest in the entire region. How comfortable are you with that number?
I'm not comfortable at all, and that's why I have voted against tax increases. We need to find a smaller number. There's definitely things that we can do within our city to help bring that down, and that's the direction that I'm heading to.
So where will you cut then to find room for the $1 million for the renoviction bylaw?
Well, first of all, with regard to the renoviction, the $1 million for the renoviction, the funding, here's the plan, the straightforward plan, is the startup work in 2026 is being paid from the tax rate stabilization reserve. So that's automatically baked into the tax base today. And then staff come back to us in the 2027 budget process with the permanent funding request. You say 800,000, I heard, you mentioned that 800,000. It's like saying, it's a lot of money, there's no doubt. It's like saying a kitchen renovation costs $50,000 and then leaving out all the other things that includes, like the foundation repair, cabinets, plumbing. It's a bundle of startup and operating estimates. And as I said, as the taxpayers, what they should really care about is that we're using a reserve funding to get the drafting work done, and any ongoing costs will come back through the budget process. So it's not a blank check. It's really build, measure, report, and then we decide.
There has been an awful lot of talk in recent years, Hans, about getting a new fiscal arrangement here in the province because too much has been downloaded by the province onto the backs of cities. How will you, in the future, be able to say that the funding arrangement needs to be changed when you're willing to do the province's work for them?
Mike, I understand. I get the uploading concern, but what I want to call this is gap filling, not uploading. Evictions are provincial, and the the LTB makes those decisions. But what we're doing here locally is using our municipal tools, licensing, documentation, compliance. So bad faith renovictions are harder to pull off while we continue pushing the province to fix the LTB. And we've structured it so ongoing funding comes back through the public 2027 budget process, so it's accountable.
Hans, I know we see this differently, and we knew that coming in, but I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show and explain your side this morning. Thank you for that.
I really appreciate it, Mike. And Mike, you and I both want the same thing. We protect taxpayers and protect people, and I'll keep holding the line on taxes. This is responsible aversion of compassion.
Again, your time's appreciated. I'm sure we'll talk again, Hans. Thank you.
Okay, Mike. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hans Roach is the Ward 3 councillor in the city of Waterloo, one of 6 councillors who voted in favour. One councillor had a conflict of interest, recused herself, and Mayor McKay was the only vote against. So it passes 6-1. The renoviction bylaw, $800,000 up front, additionally $450,000 in year 2. You're $1 million and change to do something that I believe, and I said this yesterday, is utterly the business of the province. And again, consider the numbers. I know we talk about this all the time when it comes to road safety concerns, right? How many lives is enough lives, etc. Over 5 years, according to Waterloo staff's own report, there were 34 instances where tenants were facing bad faith evictions. 34 out of more than 20,000 rental units. So a shade more than a percent. A single percent. And for that, the entire city faces the cost of the renoviction bylaw, which I also, the province can override any of these decisions locally. And I just think this is the city entering an area where it ought not enter, giving false hope in some cases. And I understand, I really do, the desire to have systems that protect every single, as Hans said, gap filling. I absolutely see it differently. My vote would have been no. Let's advocate to the province, because I could never, with a straight face, then go back and say, well, downloading. Look at all the stuff the province downloads on us. And here's a city willing to do the province's work. And I know Kitchener's looking at one. Hamilton's already adopted one. I get it. I think they're wrong too. But what I love about this show is we can have differences like Hans and I just did, and we can hear one another's perspectives. So as somebody who lives in this region, what do you think of our municipalities getting involved in the business of creating renoviction bylaws? Is this a direction cities should be moving? Would love to hear from you on this. Phone lines are open on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Here's an analogy. The province sets the traffic laws, but the city puts up stop signs and speed bumps. I'm not trying to replace the Traffic Act. I'm trying to stop the crashes on our street. And jurisdiction, as the mayor had noted, isn't comfort to a tenant facing displacement. While we keep pressing the province, residents need protection now, and municipalities are the first place they turn.
That is Hans Roach, Ward 3 councillor in the city of Waterloo, one of 6 councillors who voted in favour this week of a renovation bylaw, going against the advice of staff in the report that council was given to consider. 34 such instances of bad faith renovictions in more than 20,000 rental units in the city of Waterloo. And for that, the city is willing to invest about $1 million tax stabilization fund. I get it, but now that stabilization fund needs to be replenished, right? I think this is the province's work. That's all. My heart goes out to you. It does. But with the province holding the hammer here, I think any efforts on the part of municipalities are futile. And what the aim should be is to get change provincially. And cities, because they're the most accessible, I get it. Advocates line up at council, present, tell council what needs to be done, because you can get into a city hall and appear before your local council. It doesn't happen at Queen's Park. And I understand it's much more difficult to have your voice heard there. But this is where we're at. And now the city, in my opinion, is willingly taking on more responsibility. And it's not the city's job to do this. It's the province's. but I'd love to hear from you at 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Gail sends me an email to Mike at 570news.com. She says, I agree with Hans. I'm so scared because I've lived in my place for 28 years, and I have all the originals in my place because I pay lower rent. I'm petrified that I'll get told to leave because I definitely would not be able to afford the rent prices that are out there. First time I've disagreed with you. My family all laugh because they say, oh yeah, if Mike Farwell says it, you're always agreeing. So here's a first for me. At 65, it terrifies me. And Gail, I totally get it. I've had this conversation around my dinner table with my beloved. I've lived in those lower rent places. The difference was when I was doing that decades ago, there wasn't this threat of the bad faith renoviction being sent back out into a market where rents are sometimes double what I'm currently paying. I get that. And that's why these bad faith renovictions happen, because the landlord wants to make more money off that unit. I feel for you. I don't want you to be displaced. I just believe this is the province's job to take care of. Dieter is with us on the phone. Good morning, Dieter. I don't think Dieter's there. Nope. Dieter has departed, dearly or otherwise. But phone lines are open to you at 519-570-2545. Star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. Another email, this one from Nathan to Mike at 570news.com. I agree that perhaps the renoviction bylaw and its costs may not be worthwhile in the long run, though for me as a renter, it would be a relief to know I was protected. I do take issue with returning the responsibility back to the province. For this, homelessness, and anything else that cities have been taking responsibility for instead. It doesn't seem like advocating to the province has been working because the dial has not been moving on any of these issues. And the landlord-tenant board is kind of a disaster. The province just isn't pulling its weight, and the next election is 3 years away. What do we do about these issues in the meantime? Nathan, I hear you. And again, I'm with you on this. I think what this is on the part of cities is a bit of a smokescreen. It'll make you feel good as a renter, but ultimately the province holds the hammer in this. That's my belief anyway. Conservative Charlie on the phone. Good morning.
Hi, Mike. I got a take on this.
Okay.
For this much money that they're put in other words, they're just blowing. Why not hire 15 more snowplow drivers? About the same amount of money. They could do a lot better.
So you think that would provide better service to the people of Waterloo?
Well, you clear the snow a little faster. How many complaints have we got about the snow this winter? We don't have that many complaints about renoviction, but we got a lot of complaints about snow.
Yeah, see, Charlie, I hear you. And this is where we get into difficulty, right? When a report says of the more than 20,000 rental units in the city, there have been 34 instances of bad faith renovictions. It's a small number, but should any instance be worth the city trying to close that gap, as Hans Roach said? Or if we just based things on the volume of complaints, fireworks bylaws now, right? We can use Waterloo as an example there. Can't buy your fireworks in Waterloo anymore unless you buy them online. And you can still set them off, but you're just not going to be able to buy fireworks at any bricks and mortar location because there have been that many complaints. Cities are done with it. So Charlie's not wrong. There have been scores of complaints about snow clearing or inadequate snow clearing this year. And we don't see an extra $1 million going out to buy more plows. Not that I'm necessarily endorsing that, but obviously there's Charlie's point. Chris, good morning.
So if I understand correctly, only a handful of people who have actually reported renovictions. How many people do we estimate didn't report this?
That's a very good question.
Because I know several people who have been tried to be kicked out. They used the Landlord-Tenant Act to their advantage and therefore didn't report it. I think we need to start looking at the homeless situation and understanding that the city of Waterloo is trying to get ahead of the situation. And yes, it needs to be downloaded by the province, but province isn't going to do it, so someone has to.
Yeah, well, I hear you. This is the problem, though, isn't it? Cities keep doing it. And if we're being honest, they complain about it. We need a new fiscal arrangement, right? The province is downloading too much. We hear that all the time. And in this case, they're just picking it up anyway. It's tough. It's tough. I want renters to be protected. I'm not sure this is the way to go about it. Okay, I didn't get to it right at the beginning of the show today, but let's make sure you get your Farwell Show 5 for this Thursday morning. Please and thank you, says the guy who's supposed to bring it to you. Well, why did my computer go on to silent mode when I was gone yesterday? Let me just fix that and get to the business.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Number 1 on the Farwell Show 5 this morning, Prime Minister Mark Carney holding a 2-day cabinet retreat in Quebec City to focus on the economy, affordability, and security ahead of Parliament's return. The meetings follow Carney's overseas trip, where he secured deals on trade, defense, and investment, including lowered Chinese tariffs on Canadian agriculture. Number 2, taxes in Woolwich Township are going up almost 8%. Council approving a budget this week with a 7.8% increase, working out to about $100 more for the average Woolwich home. The township says inflation and contractual obligations continue to affect the cost of services, while a fast-growing population increases pressure on roads, parks, and other municipal infrastructure. Maintaining and renewing critical assets, such as roads, bridges, and facilities, remains a key challenge due to funding gaps from prior years. Yeah, and who was around the council table in prior years? Woolwich, 7.8% more this year. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, signs of financial distress are mounting at Toys R Us Canada, with multiple locations closing in recent weeks and landlords saying they are owed unpaid rent. In Guelph, the Toys R Us at Stone Road Mall had its lease terminated on January 17th after the store failed to pay its rent. A notice posted in the store window says that if Toys R Us owners do not remove inventory, fixtures, and personal belongings by January the 30th, they'd be removed and may be disposed of. And after 40 years in Kitchener, the store closing sign has gone up in the window of Toys R Us on Fairway Road. Number 4, United Way Waterloo Region Communities is making a $500,000 investment in community. The funding comes as a fourth quarter investment running from now through March. The money will support organizations in Waterloo Region working under the specific issue areas of mental health, addictions, and food insecurity. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, the Salvation Army's Christmas Kettle campaign in Guelph raised more than $112,000 this year, supporting the Salvation Army's Christmas assistance programs and its year-round services for some of Guelph and Wellington County's most vulnerable residents. The Salvation Army had hoped to raise $150,000 with this year's campaign, and donations are still being accepted at guelphsa.ca/donate. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Thursday morning. Should we become an American territory? More Americans think so, and we'll talk about it next on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. There is very little in this business more frustrating than an absent guest. You say you're going to come on the show, and then when we call you, you don't come on the show. I'm sure Mario Canseco with Research Co. has a very good reason for not picking up the phone this morning. And quite frankly, in this particular case, I think we can do without Mr. Canseco's point of view, because we can just share with you the findings in this latest survey conducted. One that Mario Canseco says is about a topic that he never thought he would have to ask about. And that is, hey, America, what do you think of your president's expansionist ideas? Venezuela, mostly Greenland, and of course the long-standing joke, if you will, in air quotes, about the 51st state. But here's where it gets interesting, and it's why I wanted to present the survey findings to you and get your perspective on them. Because in this representative survey across the United States between January 13th and 15th, so just over a week ago, what we found is almost 1 in 5, 17% of Americans would like to see Canada become a territory of the U.S. or its 51st state. 10% said Canada should be a territory of the U.S. 7% said it should be the 51st state. So put that together, you've got 17% or almost 1 in 5 Americans through this representative survey that believe Canada should not be an independent nation anymore. Instead, it should become a territory or a state as part of the United States of America. 1 in 5. And this struck me because, of course, over these last many months, in this first year, remember, the 1-year anniversary of Trump's second inauguration just passed earlier this week. But we've talked an awful lot about how this is a political issue. And it's the Oval Office versus the Prime Minister's office kind of thing. Our friends, our neighbors south of the border are still very much that. They're the same good people that get along with us famously, and we like them. We really, really like them. But 1 in 5, that number, quite frankly, surprises me. Now, you can flip that on its head and see the 2/3 of respondents that said they'd prefer that Canada remain an independent nation, but still almost 1 in 5 who say that Canada should be a territory or the 51st state of America. Now, I don't think it would surprise you that Republicans were more likely to want Canada absorbed into the United States. So if you've got a Republican president, you can understand why Republicans would be more interested in looking at that. Now, counter that with how Americans in this survey feel about America's aspirations to take over Greenland. 56% say they want Greenland to remain autonomous, and only 7% believe it should become a U.S. state. So things are changing. And I find it very interesting that here in Canada, with that long, undefended border, almost 1 in 5 Americans now believe that Canada should become an American territory or just become the 51st state. And I wonder what you think of the findings in this survey from Research Co. That not American politicians, but the American people surveyed just over a week ago feel that we should become a U.S. territory or the proverbial 51st state. 519-570-2545. Star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. I've heard folks here in Canada say, listen, it's not the worst idea I've ever heard. Right? They look at the U.S. economy. They look at the way things are going in the U.S. They are very frustrated after, well, we're into an 11th year now, aren't we, of federal liberal rule here in Canada, which is not comfortable for some. They're done with that. And I've heard some folks say, listen, wouldn't be the worst thing. I don't think there are many of those folks, but if you're willing to put your voice forward on it, always would love to hear from you. But almost 1 in 5, 17% to be specific, of Americans surveyed believe that Canada should become a U.S. territory. What say you about that? Not the politicians, not the president, but our American neighbors. We'll go to the phones for Doug first. Good morning, Doug.
Hello again, Mike.
Hello again, Doug.
I got to ask you. I'm wondering how well informed these people were who answered the survey. I mean, don't forget, there's a lot of people south of that border that still think we all live in igloos.
I don't know that they gave you an IQ test before asking the questions, Doug.
Obviously, it would be an improvement. They might think that. I just, when I think of the difference between our health care, difference between our social net, safety net, if you will, versus how often people are left. They're not hung out to drive it, kind of left to their own devices so often. And I'm not sure that they would welcome having us. I don't know, make it even worse because there'd be more people to look after. I just don't think that. I just don't think they've been maybe well informed enough to make a proper answer to that.
That's interesting. I mean, more people to look after. I mean, we talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the show today based on President Trump's speech yesterday. I mean, aren't we being looked after in some ways already by the United States?
Well, apparently, according to Donald Trump, we only exist because of the United States. I thought that was a bit presumptuous too, but at any rate, I really do believe that you made a point about the liberal government, and that's caused so much frustration for so many people. In spite of the fact that Carney has tried to do his best to reach out and mend fences with the West, it's almost a lost cause trying to get people on the same page.
Yeah, it's a great point, Doug, and I appreciate the call and the thoughts on that and the tongue-in-cheek nature with which you posed your first response, which is, what do the folks responding to this survey really know about Canada? How ignorant are they of our way of life and really how similar we are as people, not living in igloos, et cetera, et cetera. But when you dive deeper into this polling from Research Co., I mean, you find that even when Americans were asked about Mexico becoming a U.S. territory or an American state, fewer think that should be the case than think that Canada should become a U.S. territory or the 51st state. And again, I just found this incredibly surprising because this is a survey of the American people, not, of course, necessarily the American president or the American administration. We've heard all of the bluster from the president. Of course we have, and we're well aware of that. But this is the American people, 17% of whom say Canada should become a U.S. territory or the 51st state. And when you hear that that's what the American people are saying, what do you think? And are you among those? Doug talked about Prime Minister Carney trying to reach out to the West. Hello, memorandum of understanding with Alberta, right? And absolutely trying to placate Western provinces, get over this long-standing Western alienation. There's more and more traction being gained in Alberta for separatism, and some will say Alberta's more likely to separate now than Quebec. I don't know about all of that. I think there are grievances that are coming through in polling. It's a long way from actually happening. But then again, we've got reports just the other day that Canada, at the very least, is modeling its potential response to a U.S. military invasion. Who would have thought those days? It doesn't mean we're planning for one. It just means we're looking at what the models would show should such an invasion happen militarily on the part of the U.S. and how we as a nation would respond. So it's a brand new world out there. And in it, almost 1/5 of Americans say Canada should become a U.S. territory or the 51st state. What say you about the results of that survey? Phone lines are open. We'll take more calls right after this quick timeout. It's the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. According to our good friends at Research Co., 1 in 14 Americans think Greenland or Panama should become American states. 15% think Mexico should become a territory or state of the United States. But 17% of Americans think that Canada should become a U.S. territory or the 51st state, almost 1 in 5. And this is a representative survey of the American people, not the American administration. What do you make of a result like that? Does it change your feelings towards your neighbors to the south? 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Back to the phones we go. Ian, good morning.
Hey, good morning from Mexico, Mike.
Hey, hola.
How are you keeping? I hear you got lots of snow.
Don't rub it in, Ian. Don't rub it in.
Sorry. Man, what a winter. I've been here for 2 weeks, and I've talked to different Americans. Every one of them are just insulted by their president. And I think the ones that are saying to take Canada as a 51st state, they're looking at it nothing more than for our resources, whether that be water, critical minerals, etc. And as you mentioned, too, the majority, I think you said that they're Republicans. And that doesn't surprise me one bit. The more as I follow with what's going on with Trump and the Republicans, the blindness to this president and the arrogance towards the world, not just Canada, that is starting to really, I think, fire back at the U.S. But in terms of Mexico, there was an interesting article that Mexico really looked up to Mark Carney's speech in terms of what he said about uniting together against the U.S. in terms of holding them off on everything that way. But most Americans, like I said, that I've met down here, they're really embarrassed by what's going on. And, we do have a great relationship. There are many great Americans that, are friendly. We get along great. I like to say to turn it around, and what would happen if Canada said, well, you know what, how about we take over the U.S. as a province or a territory? Because, right? Let's reverse that. And do they have as much to offer as what we as Canadians have to offer? I think our country is great for all the resources we have, but we also have a great and strong people as well, that we're proud to be Canadians. And, our Prime Minister really did make us proud at Davos a couple days ago with that speech. But just to give you some perspective from Mexico here as well.
All right, Ian. Thanks for that. And thanks for calling from sunny and obviously very warm Mexico. Speaking of that speech, it's kind of the tale of two speeches, isn't it? From Prime Minister Carney's speech a couple of days ago to Donald Trump's speech yesterday. And we'll get into more of that just after our 10:30 update this morning. But we should be grateful, says the U.S. president to us here in Canada. Another Ian, this Farwell's Force member number 101 via email to mike@570news.com. Don't forget, 20% isn't very high. It's just his core MAGA base that gets their information from his Truth Social or Fox News. They'll buy into any idea he makes, including his lies. Appreciate the email, Ian. And you're right. To me, the 1 in 5, almost 20%, sounds high based on what Ian said about the folks that he's meeting, the Americans that he's meeting. I've not had any negative experiences crossing a border in America in the last year. Not one negative experience. So I've always felt very highly of the American people, irrespective or perhaps separate from their president right now. So the 1 in 5 sounded high to me based on that. We'll go back to the phones. Jim, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mike. It's funny. I was listening to the numbers you were given there, and they don't like Mexico and they don't like Greenland or don't understand Greenland. I think that's what it boils down to. To put a positive spin on it, I think Americans like Canada, and they hear that and they think, oh, yeah, it'd be great if we had Canada.
That's a good way to look at it, yeah.
Yeah, so, so I think there's definitely a lack of understanding on their part. But I watch the news. I hear what you're saying about politicians, about Republicans. I always take a little bit of hope away from thinking that the citizenry of America, at least in the long run, I think they would understand that, we don't want to be part of the country and we shouldn't be part of America. So,
Jim, appreciate the call. Thanks for weighing in today.
Thanks, Mike.
Great to hear from you. And I like the spin. And maybe that is, they like us. They really, really like us. And remember, early days with the 51st state talk, right? It would be a political nightmare for the United States to adopt a much more democratic, using the U.S. politics, nation or state like Canada, right? That could tip the scales against the Republicans. So maybe, to Jim's point, the Americans are looking at us as a savior. Please, you nice Canadians, come down here, join us, and you can save us from ourselves. I don't know. Mike, good morning.
Yes, Mike. Thanks for taking my call. Actually, you just made my point for me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take your thunder away.
That's all right. I was down in Florida with my wife last year, and we had this conversation with one of our neighbors in the park. And I said to him, well, quite frankly, aside of all the reasons why I would not want to be American, you wouldn't, as an American, want us. He was a Republican, very proud of it. And I said, if Canada came to the U.S., you would likely never have another Republican majority in the White House, because even my most rabid conservative friends would vote Democrat versus Republican. And I don't think they quite understand that. They see us as a very conservative minded people and very like-minded, but we are not nearly as polarized as they are. And I think that's a very important point that they're not taking into consideration. But thank you for taking my call.
Thank you for making it, Mike. I love to hear from you, and you state your case very well. Let's get in one more before our update from the News Center. Paul, good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Mike?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I just have found myself, with all of this going on, so reminding in terms of the feelings of when COVID was, and now we're getting a second blast of this. So what I'm doing is I'm writing things down rather than getting upset. So if I could just read this, it won't take long.
Yeah, for sure.
We're not here to call you names or throw slurs at the American people. We want to address the current administration. You are not politicking, but rather treating the American presidency as a corporation, as this is all you know. For that, I understand. All you know and aspire is taking over, acquire, get control, make acquisitions, and scorch and burn who and whatever comes your way in an idea from who or whoever is in your posse. It is fairly evident that the rest of us are just numbers to you in your corporation. Need I say more on this? No regards for rules-based or in pragmatic, real dialogue or issues of the day. You, sir, create the issues. Yes, the previous administration made mistakes and blunders. You came in and turned everything upside down, claiming nothing is or was working. From my vantage point, it wasn't that bad. Improvements needed, yes, but kick every stone up the road and you'll never get home. You're in charge now, and you're opening up old wounds in order to get what you think is rightfully yours. I will put it in terms of my daughter when she was 4 years old. You're not the boss of me. Yes, Donnie, you are not the boss of Canada or the world. We Canadians will forgive the American people in time if and when you and your administration are gone. What we do is we won't forget. I believe this is a conundrum of your culture in the U.S. as your very own citizen, Gore Vidal, coined the phrase, United States of Amnesia.
All right, Paul, you said it wouldn't take long. I'm late for news. Got to go, but thank you for sharing that. It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
This is where today's topics turn into today's talking points. It's local and it's Democratic radio at its finest. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
This land on which we're going to build the greatest golden dome ever built. We're building a golden dome that's going to, just by its very nature, going to be defending Canada. Canada gets a lot of freebies from us, by the way. They should be grateful also, but they're not. I watched your Prime Minister yesterday. He wasn't so grateful. But they should be grateful to us. Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements.
The Mike Farwell Show continues
on 570 News Radio.
Canada should be grateful. Canada lives because of the United States. You should remember that next time you're making your statements. Mark, not Prime Minister Carney, just on a first-name basis is Donald with Mark. I probably shouldn't have said that. I'm sure this is being monitored some way, somehow. But let's talk about the tale of two speeches, shall we? Prime Minister Carney's speech on Tuesday hailed as one of the best ever, standing ovation. Donald Trump's rambling 57-minute address yesterday, somewhat less so admired. Julie Simmons is an associate professor of political science at the University of Guelph, joins us to talk about it. Julie, good morning.
Good morning.
Are you feeling grateful as a Canadian this morning, Julie?
Oh, absolutely.
What do you make of President Trump's position yesterday?
Well, it's difficult to interpret much of what Mr. Trump says because sometimes he can't pronounce things, sometimes he seems to be rambling incoherently, and other times he seems to not be too clear on basic facts. Yesterday, for example, he was confusing Iceland with Greenland in his statements. So, but the key takeaway for me, I think, is that, he has backed away from both tariffs and armed force in Greenland, or the use of armed force in Greenland, and is claiming to have the concept of an agreement that will be infinite in its length, that will be negotiated at a future date about access to Greenland, when the reality is he already has access to Greenland through the 1951 agreement the U.S. signed, where Greenland agreed and Denmark agreed that the U.S. had the right to have military bases in Greenland. And in fact, they had 17 during the Cold War. And so long as Greenland and Denmark know what the activity of the United States is in Greenland.
In other words, that would likely be for military/defense purposes and not resource extraction, shall we say?
Well, I mean, that's what the 1951 agreement is about.
Right.
We don't have any sense that there are specific contours to the new agreement he made reference to yesterday. Mark Rutte, who is the spokesperson for NATO and in a leadership position there and former leader of the Netherlands, he, has a way with Trump of of talking him down and is known as a bit of a Trump whisperer. So I think perhaps in his discussions yesterday, he was successful in bringing Trump back from some of the more outlandish statements that he has been making. And I think probably also the stock market brings Mr. Trump back from those statements as well, because it was sort of on a decline as we ramp up all of this discussion about the destabilization of NATO.
I've heard it argued, Julie, that this really, what we're witnessing in real time, is the art of the deal come to life, except in geopolitics, not apartment buildings. This is Donald Trump's way of doing things. He gets your attention on an issue so that everybody's laser focused, and then he announces this framework deal that seemingly he only knows about. But is this just another way of negotiating, and the stakes are higher?
I'm not sure he's doing much negotiating here, given that, to my knowledge at least, Denmark has not yet joined that conversation in a substantive way. So I'm not sure what he's referencing when he's talking about having a deal.
Are we living in a new world order now, the likes of which Prime Minister Carney alluded to on Tuesday?
Well, he did give a very powerful speech, and one of the things that he did want to talk about was that the rules-based international order appears to be broken, and rather than pretending that it still exists by signing agreements with the big powers, what individual countries need to do is establish a new pragmatic world order where, there are a group of countries that share collective values. And those include things like sustainability, territorial integrity, respect for the rule of law, and that they kind of band together and negotiate with the big superpowers together. And that way they kind of increase their clout, and they can't be sort of bullied into a corner by a power like the United States that even when you negotiate rules for, say, trade agreements, the United States feels perfectly comfortable violating those very rules. So that, urge to speak truth to that sort of totalitarian impulse that we are seeing with some of the things that Donald Trump is doing, I think is a very bold statement to make. And, I think that some of the things that our prime minister has been doing in terms of negotiating new trade agreements around the world, and also his role just in terms of meetings with other middle powers in all of Europe, suggest that he's quite serious about that.
If it's one thing I worry about, Julie, it's the pace at which these new relationships can move forward, begin to bear fruit. And I wonder, or I worry that maybe Canadians, after that speech that everybody seems to have gotten behind, might think things are going to happen overnight in this new world order, but it's going to take time. As much as the groundwork has been laid now, it's not like you just flip a switch and Canada becomes a strong, middle power on this third path that Prime Minister Carney talked about.
Oh, I agree with you. Definitely. I think it's more, he's sharing the ideas and the steps unfold over a period of time in the same way that the existing, international rules-based order is something that didn't happen overnight, right? And so it's always refreshing, though, in my view, to see leaders taking these issues seriously and thinking about, the concepts behind the actions that they're taking. And that, I think, separates certainly what he said yesterday from what Mr. Trump several days ago, to what Mr. Trump was saying yesterday.
It really is a contrast in leadership on the Canadian and American side of this border, is it not?
Yes, I tend to think so. I don't know that we can really compare Mr. Trump to any other previous leader in the United States in terms of, how he chooses to conduct himself. And it's just very interesting to see where the general population, where Republicans are at in the House of Representatives, who's speaking out against the the president. Pop culture references, the late night talk shows. It seems like there are more challenges and questions about his health and his capacity than ever before.
Fair points all around for sure. So glad we could get your perspective on the show today, Julie. Thank you very much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure, Mike.
Julie Simmons is an associate professor of political science at the University of Guelph. Joins us to contrast, really, because that's what they were. It was a contrast in speeches, wasn't it? Prime Minister Carney's address, which we played bits of for you on the show yesterday, and then President Trump. And, on that last point, I don't want to go too far down the Biden path with you here, but we all knew. I think it seemed pretty evident that former President Biden was in declining health, cognitively and otherwise. Some of what I heard from President Trump yesterday suggested to me that he is also in decline. He turns 80 this year, not to be ageist, but there were parts, and the confusion of Iceland and Greenland, and just the way in which Donald Trump spoke yesterday, it did not come across flawlessly, to say the very least. What do you make of the speeches that we heard, particularly since it's the most recent, what we heard from Donald Trump yesterday? We should be grateful as Canadians. We live because of the United States. Tell me what you think of that on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
That urge to speak truth to that sort of totalitarian impulse that we are seeing with some of the things that Donald Trump is doing, I think is a very bold statement to make. And I think that some of the things that our Prime Minister has been doing in terms of negotiating new trade agreements around the world suggest that he's quite serious about that.
That would be the so-called third path, I suppose, that Prime Minister Carney talked about earlier this week in his address to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, an address that earned him a standing ovation, talking about these middle powers sticking together and not just trying to curry favor with those larger, wealthier nations that are using their economic advantage to force these middle powers and smaller powers to do their bidding. Prime Minister Carney says there is a third path. President Trump yesterday responded not only by name-dropping Prime Minister Carney by his first name, just calling him Mark, but also suggesting that Canada only lives because of the United States, and we should be grateful. We're getting a lot of free things from the U.S. How do you respond to that? 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Our guest, by the way, Julie Simmons, an associate professor of political science at the University of Guelph. Kevin is with us on the phone. Good morning, Kevin.
Hello, good morning, Mike. A couple of issues here I just want to mention with regard to Donald Trump. Or should we just call him a Donald? Because if he calls the Prime Minister Mark, we should just call him Donald.
We could.
And then here's the thing. I think everybody's talking about, Joe Biden's cognitive and, his mental issues and everything. I think it's a bigger issue with him. I don't know if you heard a term that they call him in America, like a taco, like Trump always chickens out.
Yes, I remember that.
He says something, and the next day he will change his word. And the whole world is now confused what he's doing. I'm originally, from Iran. And there are people who are being killed by thousands in Iran, and he keep promising them, go fight, I'm coming to help you. And these poor young people, they're hoping for his help, and they're losing their lives, and yet he's just sitting there and laughing, and some days he's not even mentioning. He's just mocking the world political system. He's just playing games. He enjoys manipulating. He enjoys playing games. Like 2 days ago, he said, we're going to put tariffs against European countries who back Greenland. And then as soon as he arrived in Switzerland, he said, no, I don't want to put any tariff on the Greenland. I don't want to use power. People don't know what he's doing. I think he has an issue with his mental, or he just enjoys playing with people's emotions, people's life and economy. He's not normal. He's absolutely most abnormal politician I've seen in years. To be honest with you, I didn't vote for Mark Carney, but I changed my vote. I'm so proud of him. He turned the whole table. He didn't listen to a bully. He stood up against a bully. He's doing his job. And you know what? I'm so proud to be Canadian when the whole world representative giving a standing ovation to our Prime Minister. I mean, that is something that the world trying to recognize that who we are as Canadian. And I've never been so proud to be Canadian as I am today.
Kevin, appreciate the call. It does remind me of the whole elbows up philosophy under which Prime Minister Carney was elected, right? I would argue that his elbows were most certainly up earlier this week when it was his turn to address the World Economic Forum. Like Kevin just said, he wasn't taking any guff from the bully in the room. Dave, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Two very quick points.
Sure.
One is, I would appreciate if the Americans would do a quick survey among Buffalonians on how they feel about the southwestern Ontarians coming down to Buffalo for the Sabres games and for the Buffalo Bills games, and what do they think of all that support and all those dollars being spent? That's my first point. The second point is I appreciate what your guest said and what people called in said, but a refresher on the history of the United States is in order. And that is the United States is proud of its expansionism and militaristic outlook on the world at large. And that's all I have to say. Have a great day, Mike.
All right, Dave, thank you very much for the call this morning. I think there is definitely that pride to which Dave alludes, and I think that President Trump is trying to restore that, not restore the pride because it does exist, but restore the power behind the pride, the reason for the pride. He's not afraid to use military force, and it is the strongest military on the planet. So there you have it. But no military intervention anymore in Greenland. The framework of a deal has been worked out, right? So says President Trump in his somewhat incoherent ramblings yesterday. 57 minutes he stood at the podium and addressed the World Economic Forum. I've heard it argued, and I said this to our guest from the University of Guelph, that this is simply what we are witnessing is the art of the deal, Donald Trump's book, and him playing it out in politics as opposed to real estate deals. This is how he goes about getting things done. He gets your attention, and then once he's got it, he settles into doing something. And others have described it as a game of Risk, which is a board game I'm sure you're familiar with, and that's how Donald Trump appears to be playing with the world right now. It's been an awful lot of heavy talk about geopolitics and how we're going to move forward in this new world order, if you will. So I think this might be the best point in the show to remind you, as I do every day, that not everybody is a jackwagon. So let me take you to South Bend, Indiana, okay? Home of Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. And to folks in South Bend, Indiana, it was a UDO, an unidentified driving object. But what it really was Mo Riles' truck. It looked normal enough from the front, but when seen from any other angle, you would wonder how this thing stayed on the road. The bed was bent and twisted to the point that it had buckled in behind the cab of the truck. It almost turned it into a V shape because the back end was sticking up so much compared to the bent-in part right behind the cab. It was such a strange sight on the streets of South Bend that many people thought the images they were seeing online were AI generated. Oh, and by the way, if you're wondering how this thing stays on the road, vehicle inspections are not mandatory in Indiana. But this really was Mo's truck. It was his way of getting around. It became an internet sensation. Thousands of people were commenting on it, which brought it to the attention of Colin Crowell, who owns an automotive detailing shop in South Bend.
I just thought there's got to be something more to why this truck looks like this. I just put two and two together that this is this person's only means of transportation.
And so what did Crowell do? He created a crowdfunding campaign. Donations started pouring in, almost 500 donations to be exact, amounting to almost $22,000. And Mo, the owner of that beat-up truck, was blown away.
That's the part that knocked me over, bam. Here's a human being seeing another human being struggle. And I'm like, wow, what did I do to deserve this? You know?
Well, maybe it was the hard work, because Mo worked most of his life, but recent health issues have made a reliable vehicle more important than ever so he can get to his medical appointments. And now, thanks to Crowell's crowdfunding campaign, Mo has a new truck. We call it a reminder that not everybody is a jackwagon, but Mo thinks it's something else.
This whole thing is not about me. It's about this community bonding together. God is good.
God is good. If you know someone who is not a jackwagon and we can share their story, drop me an email anytime, Mike@570news. renoviction.com. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, we get the chance this morning to provide a little update, and I'm really excited to be providing this update because it takes me back. And on a Thursday, why don't we throw things back a little bit? Retro Rollers and the permanent location is opened in Kitchener. And I'm very pleased to be joined in studio by Phil Morris. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning.
And Elaine Beck. Good morning, Elaine.
Good morning, Mike.
Together, you are Retro Rollers. When last we spoke, you were just a pop-up. You were popping up around the region and in other places, but you now have a permanent site. How's it feel, Phil?
Oh, it's great. You know, we spent a lot of years trying to put stuff together to make a point to get enough funding put together so that we could get a permanent roller rink, and that was a struggle in itself. But now it's put together. You know, we got it done, and we're happy to be on the other side of construction.
Absolutely. Elaine, why a roller rink?
Why a roller rink? Well, joy.
Joy.
Firsthand joy. You know, having that natural dopamine is so rare these days. I think a lot of people, especially now, need something positive in their lives, and they need to talk to their families about something positive in their lives. And when you're faced with a lifestyle now, we live independently, headphones on, in our own cars. Maybe we go to the movies and we don't talk to each other. This is something different. This is something fun that we can all do and bring that natural dopamine back and talk to each other.
I love it. And that's one of the reasons I was really excited to be providing this update, going from pop-up to permanent. Do you have fond memories of roller skating yourself?
Believe it or not, I only started roller skating about 12 years ago.
Come on.
Yes. And I do keep it transparent with people that I teach that, I too am still learning. And I think that's what a lot of people enjoy, is that we're very honest with our people. We are roller skaters, but I personally didn't start until about 12 years ago. So
interesting. Mm-hmm. I was about 12 probably when I first got on roller skates. I was never very good at it, but it's just, there is that joy that you talk about. Yeah. I can absolutely feel that sensation as we talk about this. Phil, you're on Highland Road in Kitchener now. Whereabouts?
So we're on Highland at Westmount. We are underneath. We're in the lower level. We like to call it the lower level. We don't like to call it the basement, because basement sounds like mold and mildew. But it's far from that. It's very clean. So we're below there's a Shoppers Drug Mart there. There's a Part Source and Salvation Army store. We're in the door right underneath our big sparkly sign, big sparkly Retro Rollers Disco Ball sign. We have a door that's right beside the Part Source that you can go down into our lower level.
Into your lower level retro roller rink and experience that joy. What did it take? You mentioned earlier that you're happy to be on this side of it. The work's behind you, the pop-ups are behind you, the location has been found. But I'm sure this lower level couldn't become a retro roller rink overnight. What went into transforming the space?
There was a lot of planning. We started planning for this about a year ago. I'm going to say about a year ago, but we originally looked at the space before COVID. Before COVID happened. And we thought about it, and Elaine actually first looked at it and said no.
No,
too many columns, which was that's a big on social media we hear a lot about the columns. I'm going to run into the columns, or what are you going to do about the columns? Anyway, we've resolved that. I think we've set it up perfectly. And what was your question?
What would it took to transform the space?
Yes.
So the columns stay, but we're working around them.
We're working around them, yeah, for sure. So it took a lot of... so Elaine and I did most of the construction ourselves, actually. We hauled 200 sheets of drywall downstairs.
Jiminy Christmas.
All the framing to do with that. The pipe railings that we put up, the snack bar, the rental area. We brought all of our rental skates there. We probably have 700 pairs of rental skates there. So there'll be no shortage. People ask us, what's your capacity? And it's just under 500. And we could definitely reach that.
We did have some helpers, though. We did have some helpers, some friends that volunteered their time and are now roller skaters themselves also. So they also know what's involved and what we truly need in order for it to be successful. So with their help, in combination with our headaches and muscles being sore from lifting all that drywall, I have trauma from that.
I'm not surprised. I have trauma just hearing about 200 sheets of drywall.
Yes, it was a lot of heavy lifting, and at first it was really hard. We were struggling, 14-hour days, moving stuff around constantly and lifting and going up and down ladders, and I think a lot of that over time we became stronger and physically, mentally, emotionally, and had a lot of fun with it every day. We started off and still do with a double high five, and this is going to be a great day. And no matter what, we try to stay positive. It's tough, but we do.
I love that. And I did wonder, you say stronger physically, obviously, mentally, emotionally, like you're still together after going through all of this, right? Like, come on, people go through renovations at home and have enough trouble. This is a pretty massive transformation.
One big IKEA couch.
Okay, so the roller rink aspect aside, why embark on this entrepreneurial endeavor?
All or nothing. All or nothing. In life, you have one life. We have one life, and you can do with it whatever you want. And we chose to be the change. And as crazy as it seems, I think a lot of people need to really look at within themselves and say, just how strong are we? And we are a lot stronger than we think. And I think that's what we came out of this with together is as many 8 years now that we've been trying to build this business and hit every single mountain you could climb. And, basically we climbed that mountain in the construction, and now we're at the bottom of the next mountain. Now we're on to the business part of things. So I'm excited to see what the future has for us.
8 years, though. Did you ever think along the way, I'm out. This is too much?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, for sure. Of course. That's natural,
Every
right?
day.
Why?
Why do we do this?
Yeah. I'd wake up and say, they're just roller skates. Why? But it means a lot to us, though.
Phil, you mentioned that disco ball, that glitter ball at the door that will help us find our way into retro rollers. I think we all have a mental image of those roller rinks of years gone by. Is this a time capsule to that, or are we modernizing the roller rink experience at Retro Rollers?
Yeah, our vision is really everything old is new again. So we're not actually bringing back. So we didn't get, when you used to go into the roller rinks and you used to see that carpet with the neon on it and everything like that, and you'd look at it and you'd get a headache just from looking at it. We don't have that kind of carpet, but all the artwork is original artwork by Elaine. She designed. She did have some inspiration, but she actually designed all the artwork that's in the space. We had help painting it. But traditionally, yes, it's a roller rink, but we put a modern twist on it.
I noticed when I looked at some of the pictures, there's some swag already there that we can have. I saw the hoodies, and you got the snack bars there. And so what's an experience? What is a visit to Retro Rollers going to be like?
I think I'll let Elaine answer that.
Well, surprise, surprise, a waiver. There is nothing in life you can do these days without signing your life away. So there is a waiver, and we always ask people to try to get that signed before coming out to the rink because it does help the lineup move faster. Traditionally, you do go into places these days pre-registration-wise. That is not the case with us. We want it to be an authentic experience. You come in, you have your waiver done, you show proof of your waiver at the door, pay your admission, and come on through and be wowed right away. A lot of people are extremely surprised at the size of this space. The space is 20,000 square feet. Ooh. And it does have a process when you come in. There is a method to the madness. We designed it so that in the winter months, the salt does manage to come off of your shoes and boots before coming in to take off your coat at our complimentary coat check. And we have, like Phil said, over 700 rental skates available to rent, and a snack bar with just your basic popcorn, chips, chocolate bars, slushies.
There you go.
Yeah. And we actually added espresso, very, very good espresso. And, we keep it very basic, but also very fun. The music is an excellent vibe. The sound is excellent there. We don't really want people yelling at the top of their lungs to talk to each other. We want to welcome a social atmosphere and fostering that environment. So we keep the volume at a level that you can still speak, scream, and have fun.
That's absolutely what it's all about. Now, I seem to recall when you were doing the pop-ups before, when we had talked about, were they themed, or was it just certain times of the week it was? I think were they themed?
Yeah, we do have, we haven't really set up the themes yet.
Okay. Yeah.
But we do have different DJs. So every evening skate has a DJ. So Wednesday nights is kind of what we've started for Wednesdays actually is $1 off for students. So any students from, any university or college or high school can come and show their student card and get $1 off. $1 off admission. So Wednesdays is going to be, I think, more modern music with kind of an old school twist. And Thursdays is our adult night. So you're going to hear more of the old school songs on that night.
It's important to remember, though, that if we think old school, so this is the challenge with roller skating. We're entertaining 18 years old right now to in their 70s.
Sure.
People in the 70s. So we have a wide range of so many hits that we can, and bangers we can throw out at the crowd and entertain everyone. So we really need that patience as well from those that expect, say they think we have to do 80s or we have to do 90s hip hop or that sort of vibe. But we also, Britney Spears, you could throw that in there. That's still throwback now. So we really have to have that patience of all those decades and all those people that we need to entertain from 18 and up.
Yeah. When were 18-year-olds born?
Oh my gosh, 2008?
2000.
As of this year, right? Yeah,
right.
7, 8, yeah.
So throwback to them is like 2000.
Jeez Louise, that's true.
Those throwbacks from 2000. Isn't that funny?
It's a challenge for the DJs, but they pull it off. And sorry, you're gonna go on with the Friday nights.
Oh yes, sorry, yes. So Friday night is Fresh Friday. So there's going to be like a modern twist on some danceable, skatable music. Saturdays is I started calling it Celebration Saturday because let's celebrate. It's the weekend, right?
Absolutely.
So again, some upbeat. We try and keep everything upbeat music to keep you skating on the floor. And Sunday is I started calling it Soulful Sunday.
Nice.
So it's going to be a lot of R&B and hip hop and stuff like that. So
how did you end up settling on Kitchener as the city? Because I think you're popping up on southwestern Ontario, right? So why here? I mean, I'm glad you're here. It's my hometown, but why?
Well, a lot of it is based on data, too. We originally wanted to be in Waterloo region when we started the business. Obviously, the plan in the beginning was to open a roller rink and then, plan MNOP. But we found that just with the data alone that we carried with the being at the boardwalk here on Iron Needles, for that summer, it was 4 months, and it was during what we would call the slow season, and it was tremendously successful. And thanks to those that did come out and support that was the basis and the backbone of why we decided to finalize here in Kitchener.
Very good. Mm-hmm. Very good. Okay. I've had a time to look at this and get my own little sneak preview, but where do we learn more, Phil? How can we sign our waiver in advance and come on out to Retro Rollers?
Yeah, so the best thing to do is to go to our website, retrorollers.ca. On there, you will see all the different links at the top. If you're on your cell phone, there should be like the sandwich bar at the top. You'll be able to click on that, and you'll be able to sign our waiver. You'll be able to book your birthday parties there. You'll be able to see our hours and how much it costs. And all that stuff, all the common questions should be answered there. There is a Q&A question section there. So, if you haven't found what you're looking for, it should be answered in our Q&A. And we do have a Contact Us page. In case you don't find it on the website, please email us through our Q&A or through our, Contact Us page.
I'm sure this will take many of us back to those days at Super Skate 7 here in the region. It's Retro Rollers now, retrorollers.ca, and its owners, Elaine Beck, Phil Morris. Thanks for being here. Thanks for bringing joy back to our experiences like this. Our pleasure. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. If I am not mistaken, we could also roller skate back in the day at Bingaman's, right? Super Skate 7, I remember very well. And now we've got Retro Rollers. RetroRollers.ca just opened, Highland and Westmount in Kitchener. It's been an 8-year journey for Phil Morris and Elaine Beck, who just joined us in studio to talk about it. I remember when they were doing pop-up retro roller nights, rinks. They had a location here at the Boardwalk. We had them in back then, and they have now taken it through to a finished vision of a permanent roller rink. I must confess, I was a terrible roller skater. And in fact, I'm not much of a skater, period, ice or on wheels. And so I remember hearing that if I roller skated too much, it would ruin my stride on the ice. So I shouldn't roller. So that was my excuse. I'd go to the roller rink because I loved the music. I loved the vibe, but get me out there on the floor. And it was a different story. But I'm pretty sure we could do it at Bingaman's back in the day. I definitely remember Super Skate 7. And now we've got Retro Rollers. We'll go to the phones. Kevin is with us. Good morning, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin and Mike. It's me again. I just came up with an excellent name for Kitchener snowplows, if they haven't found it yet.
Okay.
Can I say it?
Sure.
Why don't we call it Snow Rangers? You know how when you go to the parks and you get lost in the mountains, the rangers, they come and rescue you? And in honor of our Kitchener Rangers. So we should call them Snow Rangers.
I think it's a pretty good idea, Kevin. I like where you're coming from with that. Good job.
Okay, take it.
All right, you take care. I love it. The City of Kitchener, I go to engagewr.ca. I think that's where, engagewr.ca. You can name the plow. There's a dozen options. Snow Rangers or Snow Ranger isn't one of them. But how about we name the plow, Where's the Plow? How about that? Because folks have been a little bit frustrated so far this winter. I have it on good authority. I have two things on good authority. One is there is no shortage of crews. So we've got a full complement of staff out there doing the job. We do have a shortage of salt, and that is impacting us around the region and across this province. It's not unique to the region of Waterloo. My frustration, as I expressed earlier in the day on the show, is it's not right. Something is not going the way it should, given the number of plows and the amount of crew that we have. So what's different? Is it just that bad a winter? And if that's the case, I think I get it. Like I said from the very beginning today, I've been the guy defending the plowing crews all winter long so far. I wouldn't want the job. I think they're doing great work, but I have been asking questions lately. Just out and about, I'm like, I don't understand why we seem to be in the state that we are in, but maybe it's just too damn much. The other thing, though, is if it's too damn much, this is the second damn winter, if you'll forgive my foul language, but this is back-to-back winters of rottenness like this. Anyway, maybe we'll talk more about it between noon and 1 with Talkback today. And along with that salt shortage, we are using sand. I say more of it. When I go to the Sioux, I know how much sand is out there, helping provide some traction. I don't see that much on our roads, at least not the roads that I'm on, but nonetheless. Okay, it being Thursday morning, that means after the 11:30 update in the 570 News Center, we have a little bit of fun with something called the Flipside. I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping this doesn't cause difficulty in your relationship or mine, because I confess to you that this is something that my beloved and I try to navigate. But what my buddy did with regard to this same problem, I think he made a mistake here personally. But you can tell me what you think when we get into the Flipside conversation after this update from the 570 News Center. But in a nutshell, what my buddy did was make his wife ride in the back seat of the car while the kid sat shotgun. And I'll tell you why coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is never my intention to cause friction in your life, specifically, in this case, perhaps in your relationship. But I can't help but think this thing is a thing in relationships, and that is the inability to quietly, calmly drive with one another. Raise your hand if this is an issue. One spouse or the other, one partner or the other, has a very difficult time being in one of those seats in the front of the vehicle, either the driver's seat or the passenger seat. And it is a source of friction and frustration. I have to think this is true because I have a buddy who I think his sole purpose in life is to send me reels on Instagram, which is fine. I like a good chuckle as much as the next person. And a few of them have been reels that mock, and in this case, it is the women being made fun of for their efforts towards preventing collisions on the road. And it shows these reels over and over again show a woman getting very animated that you're about to hit the back of this vehicle. And then, of course, they change the camera view and the vehicle is, 50 meters still down the road. But she's already nervous and she's making a big deal out of it. And it's just for laughs. And when I looked this up this morning, because I wanted to know if this is a gender-specific thing. Is it women who have a more difficult time being a passenger? So they become the backseat driver that you don't want to have in your passenger seat when you're trying to drive because they are too nervous and their actions make you too nervous. I don't know. I couldn't find anything to substantiate that when I looked online. But I looked online because this is what happened. And I think my buddy got it totally wrong. But you can tell me what you think. And if maybe you have encountered this, you have figured out a way to solve it. This happened over the holidays, and my buddy and his wife were headed out to visit family, and it required a long-ish drive, coupled to a few hours, mostly highway driving. His wife doesn't like to drive on the highway. She doesn't like being at the higher speeds around all the other vehicles. So it was already preordained that he was going to be doing the driving. The problem was when he did that, she was very nervous as a passenger. And she became such a distraction to him that by the time they arrived at their destination to spend time with family for the holidays, he was at his wit's end. He had had enough. The drive was hard enough, and the protestations from the passenger seat just added to the problem for him. So on the way home, he said, I'm putting my foot down. You are driving home. Well, she doesn't want to drive home on the highways. He said, then you're going in the back seat. He put his wife in the back seat of the vehicle. I mean, we call somebody who is giving instructions from the passenger seat a quote-unquote backseat driver, right? But in this case, my buddy literally made his wife sit in the back seat of the vehicle, moved the kid, his teenage son, up front to ride shotgun so that he said it would be a more peaceful drive back home. Look, I'm going to be honest with you because it's the only way I know how to be. My beloved and I struggle with this a little bit, and I have said in the past, you know what, I'll just let you drive. You do the driving. I don't care, but I do care because I like to drive. It's just habit for me, right? And my car is usually the car at the front of the driveway because I leave first in the morning for work. So if we're going out and we're going out together, my car is the convenient one to take out. She does not like driving my car, my beloved, and I can understand why. She's very comfortable in her own. Anyway, we have gone through this. My beloved tends to be a little bit of a nervous passenger. And I'm like, okay, if I make you so nervous, you do the driving. But we haven't really gotten to that. And it's not a huge deal. It's just something that I know we experience. And based on the reels that another buddy sends me frequently, this seems to be a thing. And it seems mostly to be, and I mean no disrespect, I'm just telling you what it looks like. I looked on the internet. The internet didn't give me an answer, but it seems like, ladies, you are the people in the vehicle that have the hardest time being passengers. And you know, now that I think of it, as it just occurs to me, I remember being a kid and my mom sitting in that passenger seat. My dad was always doing the driving, but the number of times my mom would get nervous and she'd reach her hands and put them on the dashboard. Burn! My dad's name is Bernie. Burn! What are you doing? Look out! What are you doing? I remember this happening. So I don't know if it's a gendered thing or not. I do know this. I think my buddy made a mistake by putting his wife in the back seat. You got to just deal with it. If that's how she is, that's how she is. Life goes on. I don't think you say to your wife, you sit in the back seat because I need peace and quiet when I drive. I think you play the hand you're dealt, but maybe that's just me. Do you think he made a mistake on this by insisting that his wife sit in the back seat? And furthermore, if you have experienced this, have you figured out a way around it? Because I get the sense that most of us who do drive have a harder time being a passenger. I don't love being a passenger, if I'm honest. I like to be in control, but I do keep my mouth shut when I'm a passenger. You drive. Okay. 519-570-2545. Star 570 at 1-800-570-5715. Did my buddy make a mistake by making his wife ride in the back seat of the car? And how do you deal with a nervous passenger, a.k.a. a backseat driver, even if they're in the front passenger seat? What's the best way to bridge this gap? We'll go to the phones. Jeff is with us. It's a Breaker 19. See, I got it. Farwell's Force member, number 19.
How are you, buddy?
Good, pal. How are you?
Good. Well, you're going to be, as you know what I do for a living, I'll be honest, I know some buddies of mine that their wives are exactly where your buddy is, like his situation. And they more or less, Mike, they do put up with it and then more or less kiddingly tell them to, you know what?
It better be kiddingly. It better be.
But I'll be honest, Mike, since you know what I do for a living, very seldom do I sit in the passenger side. So I can, as I have done it, and my daughter is a real good driver. And she made a comment there 2 weeks ago. She said, you are not, like, again, like the other people. As soon as somebody puts the brakes on, where were my hands, on the dashboard or hanging onto that, the seatbelt thing that you got around you.
Absolutely.
But my daughter, but Mike, it's a mad. I don't know if it's a good thing to tell her to get in the back. I honestly don't. I don't have an honest opinion on that. But if it gets really bad, I guess maybe that's the best place for her. Right? But, Mike, let's face it. You like driving. I like driving, and I drive for a living. For me to sit in the passenger side, it's awfully weird. And it's just, I've learned to, not everybody that I know, like, I let them drive, but my daughter, you get comfortable, and I guess that's the biggest thing. You know what I mean, Mike? I don't know if that answers your thing here, but I, as an experienced driver, I've learned to be able to watch and see, and then I'm more comfortable. I can sit back and not worry. Does that, you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Breaker 19. That's our buddy Jeff, truck driver, Farwell's Force, member number 19. I still say, and I'll just take the quote from the movie, right? Nobody puts baby in the corner. Nobody puts their wife in the back seat because she's a nervous passenger. I don't think it's unreasonable to say, okay, then you just do the driving. But if she's not comfortable on the highway, well, you got to figure this out. That's what relationships are all about, at least from where I'm sitting. But gosh, like so I think he made a mistake. But I also recognize, and Jeff alludes to it too, he's got buddies that go through the same thing. Your partner doesn't like the way you drive. I don't know. How do you solve this? Just we take two cars everywhere from now on. Maybe Mary can help us out. She knows a thing or two about relationships.
Oh, yes. Well, my present husband, had a stroke 2 years after we got married, and they took away his license. And I thought, oh, God, you know. But I'll tell you, women don't have any, what do you call it, the thing on this. Men sitting beside you while you're driving, they're nervous Nellies.
Are they?
Oh, I'm telling you. And I've driven Myrtle Beach so many times, Florida, Colorado. I'm a road warrior, but it is different being in the passenger seat. And he goes, I said, "What's the matter?" Well, you almost hit that guy. Well, no, I didn't. And listen, if you don't smarten up and be kind to me, you put on your blinders and you go to sleep. And there you have it.
So you put him in his place, Mary. But would you make him sit in the back?
No. No. He can sit in the front. He'd be just as bad in the back. No, I think that's a bit denigrating for that.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I thought like
it's sort of like you're treating me like a child. No, put the blinders on and go to sleep.
All right, Mary.
I think that's a good solution.
I think you're right. Let him stay in the front as long as he closes his eyes and shuts up.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Mary.
I love you.
And she still loves you, Mary's husband. See, I wasn't sure. And as I said, the internet was not helpful at all. I thought you could find anything on the internet. There's nothing on the internet that says to me that it is only women who get nervous when their husband is driving. Mary says her husband is nervous when she's driving, and she's a road warrior. So maybe it becomes you're a driver, you know what it's like to be at the wheel, in control, and when you're not in control, you have trouble. I still say my buddy erred in making his wife sit in the back. But how do you deal with this then if your passenger is a nervous passenger and they distract you or it bothers you? I don't know. Sometimes we just put up with stuff, right? I'd love to get the advice from you on the flip side this morning. Good idea, bad idea to tell your nervous wife to sit in the back seat of the car. How do you keep her from being nervous? Could you possibly drive better, slower, faster? I don't know. Phil sends an email to Mike at 570news.com. What about your wife on the back of a motorcycle? That's so very relaxing. My beloved was great on the back of the bike, except that one time I forgot to give her a little tap on the leg because we were going to go, you know? We had to go, and I forgot to give her a little tap to say, hang on, because we're going. That could have been the end of the relationship a long time ago in a very, very unfortunate way. But we survived. We're still here. We're still here talking about it. It's the flip side on the Mike Farwell Show this morning. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I have no doubt this is a common problem in relationships. There are two of you going to the same place at the same time. Somebody's got to drive. You are both licensed drivers. And when you're in the passenger seat, as a licensed driver who is accustomed to being at the wheel, it's an uncomfortable place to be, right? In the passenger seat. So you become what we call a backseat driver. You're very nervous. You're telling the driver how to do their job better and more safely. And the driver gets bothered by this. My buddy got so bothered by it, he told his wife to sit in the back seat on their trip home from a visit to see family. I said, I don't think that was the right choice. Like, I just don't think you should. You can, obviously. I don't think you should. I don't think that's exactly going to build a stronger bond by forcing her into the back. But he's like, I couldn't take it anymore. Okay. So, I mean, did he get it right? Is there a limit? You only should or can take so much? And furthermore, how do you bridge this gap? Because it seems to me that many of us have to deal with it when our partner is in the passenger seat and they don't like the way that we are driving. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Dave, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. What a funny topic. I'm just laughing here listening to all this. And looking back to when I was in high school, Mom would nicely drive me to high school on, some really bad days. Sitting in the passenger side, whether you're female or male, and you're watching your mom drive a foot and a half away from another vehicle. and then telling you're so upset and so scared, you're telling your mom, can you back it off a bit? And then you get told, as I'm sure a lot of husbands tell their wives.
Uh-huh.
That's not a very smart thing to do.
Exactly.
To tell anybody what to do in the passenger side, but to walk in the other person's shoes and to sit in the passenger side, you have more of a respect as to how you should drive, which is leave a lot more distance, be more considerate, allow people to move in. But then you asked, well, what do you do to prevent your wife who, as you look over and you see her, every time you even take a corner in town, she grabs onto the Holy Hannah handle above and grabs onto the center console, and she's frightened out of her mind, and you're going, wow, I'm doing 20 kilometers an hour, yet she's scared. So then you ask yourself, what do you do?
What do you do, Dave? Help me out here.
What do you do? You can't do anything against that.
You can't put her in the back seat, eh?
No, but when you are driving, you can verbalize some of your thought patterns that are going on as you're driving to let her know that you are awake.
Okay.
That you are paying attention to what's around you. Like there's a guy riding my rear end right now, and I'm going to signal, and I'm going to pull over, and I'm going to let him go. Or do you see that guy up there? Do you think he's going to pull out in front of us? So you teach her to be your extra co-pilot, and I say, do you see that deer way up there? Where? And then she's looking. So you get her looking outside of the car instead of looking at what you're doing. Not that you're trying to dupe her or anything like that. It's just, it's nice to have a co-pilot. And you should treat your co-pilot with respect, too, even if it's your son.
I like it, Dave. I like it. Thanks for the call this morning.
Yeah, and I just can't wait to listen to more because I'm going to be laughing my head off. This is a funny topic. Okay.
All right. Bye. Thanks. I appreciate it. There you go. Make sure that the passenger feels like they're a part of the driving experience. Not a bad idea. Linda, good morning.
Good morning. I think he started on the wrong path with putting her in the back seat. I think that's terrible.
I agree.
Wasn't there to witness it. So maybe he needs some anger management. I don't know. But I think that the most effective thing that somebody can do when they have that backseat driver that's in the front seat and is to recognize that they're scared. And so by arguing with them, it doesn't do anything to reduce their fear or anxiety. And so to keep saying, I've got this, I'm driving, do you want to drive, be argumentative, it doesn't do anything to fix the problem or make it better. So I think that step one would be for the driver to reassure the passenger, look, honey, I'm doing the best that I can. I'm a good driver. I need you to trust me. But also something that's very effective in dealing with people with anxiety would be to redirect their attention on other things. So like the previous caller had just said about making them, participate in it, that's kind of what I'm getting at with the distraction. So, hey, babe, your job is to look for people that are sliding or, look for, the ice patches or, and get their mind on something else, or don't have them focus on anything to do with driving and have a conversation, just like, hey, what are we going to do for dinner tonight? Did you want to go out? Are we going to have that steak that's in the freezer when we get home? We should pull it out, yada, 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 and get their mind focused on something else. And I think that would be the most effective way to deal with it if somebody's trying to make it better and recognize that, this is a problem. Now, if somebody is such a terrible passenger in the front seat and it's going to impede the driver who is doing their best, and if it's distracting the driver, then yes, that person probably should be removed from the front seat, but they're probably going to beak off just as much in the back seat.
If not more, just so they can be sure they're heard.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I think it's important that the driver reassure the person. I think that it's important that they make that person understand that they're distracting them from driving, but also redirect their attention on something else. And I think that would go a long way.
Linda, I appreciate the call today. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. There you go. Just make the nervous passenger a part of the whole driving experience. They are your co-pilot. Include them and pack your patience, because sometimes, but they are genuinely nervous and scared. It's probably a you thing if you're driving. Let's get to the 570 News Center for an update. And then open phone lines for our daily Talkback Hour. What's on your mind? I can't wait to find out. On the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage outside, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
It is your daily hour to share your thoughts. Share it with me here at the station and the entirety of Farwell's force, loyal listeners every day. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. I mean, we've got the micro level right here in town and frustrations around snow clearing and our city's seeming inability to clear snow to a standard that we expect. That's been happening here locally. And of course, globally, we have none other than U.S. President Donald Trump and his rambling 57-minute address yesterday at the World Economic Forum. How do you solve a puzzle like the president? And maybe there's something else completely different that's on your mind you want to share with us today. Whatever it is, we want to hear from you on Talkback. We'll start with Grant. Good afternoon, Grant.
Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, that was a good topic today for the Flipside.
Oh, thanks. I try to come up with good topics for the Flipside.
Yeah, that's a challenge with my brother. It wouldn't be that simple of getting his mind off of things. Because
he's a nervous passenger?
Oh, my God. Oh, yeah, you should slow down. Oh, do you see that vehicle ahead of you? Do you see that light? And I'm thinking, my goodness, I'm driving you here. Just keep quiet.
Yeah, that's right. You're getting a ride.
And I think if it's my wife and it's constant, I'm taking myself. You can take yourself, or
you wouldn't drive your wife if she didn't like your driving?
Yeah, if it's constant, especially if we're going to a place, maybe a counselor of some sort. You know what? You're creating a lot of friction here. Just relax. I know when Mom would drive, I think it was at the parking garage at Market Square. I think I was always gripping a hold of the door and that stuff. And I'm going to touch on something else. Maybe I kind of know this answer, maybe, and Kyle will probably know this answer. We were watching there's this YouTube guy that does a lot of either food challenges, and so one of his challenges was that he went with this couple on their job driving their transport truck for 10 hours. And, and the driver said, "Do you know what toothpick means?" Yeah, and he had to tell him what toothpick means. Maybe Kyle knows it. And and when I watched that segment of him, I kind of have a little bit more respect for those drivers that are driving 10 hours and with sore backs, and when they're at a truck stop too, they don't turn off their vehicles. They keep them running.
Yes, they do indeed do that. And I have a ton of respect for those folks, too, that drive those big machines. I mentioned at the beginning of the show today, the guy who used to drive one of those and now drives our bus for the Kitchener Rangers. He did not have the best drive. It wasn't the worst drive either, but coming home from Windsor last night and took good care of us coming all the way home. I thought Grant had started by saying it was a YouTube channel of food challenges, and then it turned... Anyway, I don't know what the toothpick is if you're driving a transport, so maybe Kyle or somebody else does know the answer to that. Mary, good afternoon. You're on Talkback.
Good afternoon. I don't know what the toothpick is. I'd like to know.
That's something I used to pick my teeth.
Well, he has apparently got something else for it. But anyway, I was thinking after I hung up, and I don't drive at night anymore, and I had an appointment at Stratford Hospital at 5:30. Of course, it's dark. Well, I can't drive. And so my daughter, who lives in St. Mary's, she said, "I'm going to come down, I'll drive you," and blah, blah, blah. Being the driver, like, I have my roots around town. She doesn't live here. My son is the same. But, I learned to keep my mouth shut with them because I expect them to go this way, but they're going another way, which still gets us to where we're going.
Absolutely, it does.
So the last time going to Stratford, she said, past Shakespeare, she said, "You know what? I'm really proud of you. I'm really proud that you're not,
telling her where to go."
Yeah, and it takes an art, doesn't it, to shut up sometimes.
You're telling me, Mary. You're telling me.
Yeah, so I think we should take this with a bit of more lightness. We have to train ourselves to say, "Okay, I'm in your hands. You know where you're going. We've never had an accident. So lighten up, darlings."
Good advice, Mary. Good advice. Thank you. All right, Mary's gone. She's done with that conversation. It reminds me of driving to Guelph with my late great friend, Don Cameron. We would always drive ourselves to Rangers games in Guelph because it's such a short trip. I mean, you basically spend more time getting on and off the bus than you do getting to the game. So we would always drive ourselves, and we took turns. Seems fair, right? You use your gas one time, I use my gas another time. And when I started doing this, I had my way of going, and Don had a different way. So he was the first to drive, and I saw the way that he went, and that's fine. But then I went the way that I would go to the Sleeman Center, and I could tell just by Don's mannerisms that he was not at all fond of my choice. And so what did I do? He didn't say anything. I could just tell because I got to know him well enough over the years. And so the next time I drove to Guelph, I just drove the way that Don drives because it gets us there just the same. And if it's going to keep him happier in that passenger seat, it's all that mattered to me. Glenn, you're next on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Happy Thursday. I'm off to London. I hope the weather's good.
I hope it is too.
I have a question.
Okay.
Actually, you're not a fan of Donald Trump?
No, I don't think I would call myself a fan of Donald Trump, no.
Because really the way the election signs were handled and the banning of said election signs was exactly the way Donald Trump acts. I'm surprised. Or am I wrong?
Would you make the comparison for me?
Well, you banned election signs, bullied everybody. The politicians, the media got their way, and the poor electorate and taxpayer got no say. Sounds like Donald Trump to me.
All right, Glenn, you've got your knickers knotted over election signs. You're damn right. I said we should get rid of them on public property because all we had when elections rolled around was an arms race for signs. And they cluttered our roadways, looked like crap. People would put their signs too close to other, blah, blah, blah. If you want to post an election sign with your name on it, earn it. Come and knock on my door and I'll decide if I want it there. Other than that, public property, the busiest street corner, isn't free for your use for an election sign. That's my opinion. You're welcome to feel differently. I'm sorry that I bullied council. It's about time I got council to do something I want to do. If I had my way. Grant is next on Talkback. Hello, Grant.
Hi.
Hi.
I really sitting here laughing about the driver thing.
I'm glad you got a kick out of it.
Well, and I think you'll get a kick out of this too. Years and years ago, I picked up this license plate that I always had sitting just underneath the seat so that I could reach it when I was driving. And I would pull it out and set it on the center of the floor so whoever was riding shotgun could read it. And it says, get in, sit down, shut up and hold on. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. I seem to recall seeing that at a time or another in my past. I just don't think it was still in the best interests of my buddy to tell his wife to sit in the back seat. There's something about that didn't sit well with me. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show this afternoon. This is 570 News Radio. We're taking your calls on Rogers TV, too. It is the opportunity for your opinions, be they on the issues of the day, something we discussed and you didn't get to weigh in on earlier, or something brand new. Phone lines are open, and I'm here for the conversation. Jersey Bill is next. Good afternoon, Billy.
Oh, good afternoon. Hello?
Billy, you're not sounding great right now, my friend.
Oh, hold on a sec. I have to... There we go. I had to take you off speaker. Sorry.
That's all right.
I'm not the best with these devices sometimes. Yeah. I just isn't it amazing that after everything's said and done, that Mr. Trump once again chickened out. Evidently, I don't know who affected him more, the allies of. Or his the allies that he seems to not really want to take into account, but that they showed a united front, or was it the fact that after the stock market fell almost 1,000 points in one day, that maybe some of his rich buddies said, we can't really run our lives this way. We really would rather that you not upset the markets too badly.
So, are you saying he chickened out of taking over Greenland by force?
No, yeah, I just, he likes ultimate chaos. That's what he got. But when it came time to deal with the consequences, he certainly doesn't want to deal with that. And being that an ever upward flow of the markets is something he never ceases to want to brag about, anything that occurs that goes in the other direction is probably going to be pretty determinative. Now, I really want to see what happens with the Board of Peace, with its charter members being Mr. Putin and his favorite pet Lukashenko, and a few Arab sheiks, I suppose. Now, and I suppose Mr. Netanyahu too. Now, regardless however you would think about any of them, but there's certainly Mr. Putin and Netanyahu simply, when you think of peace, you're not really thinking of those guys. They both, in terms of their policies, want to shoot first and ask questions later, if they want to ask any questions at all. Actually, if they shoot you first, then there's nobody to ask the question to. You're dead. So it's very sad, but that just seems to be the way he's headed, and I don't think the Board of Peace is really going to work out, because the people that he's going to be involved with are incompatible with the policy of peace that he seems to also want to consider. But I just don't think he thinks these things through.
Billy, I appreciate the call. I'm not sure he really does either. Or maybe President Trump just heard the passionate voices from within Greenland. I had this audio saved. I didn't get a chance to play it the other day. And I want you to hear it, because this is a politician in Greenland by the name of Tilly Martinussen. And Tilly made it very clear that there is no place for Donald Trump or America in Greenland.
So I think Trump doesn't know about Greenlandic people. We don't really value cash and Kardashian lips and fake boobs and stuff like that very highly. Actually, you cannot even own land in Greenland. You can get an allotment for your house, and then you own the house on top of the land. But Greenlanders don't believe in the land is for one person, is for everyone. And so is the seas, like the riches that we have there. So it's a big miscalculation that he thinks that Greenlanders would be incited by cash or something like that. We're not. Even if you were to say like $100,000 per person or something like that, we wouldn't give up free health care. We wouldn't give up free education. We wouldn't give up being a part of Europe. We wouldn't give up on our sovereignty. We do not want to be rich like the Americans are. See how greedy they are. They're even trying to shoot their friends or invade their friends just for greed.
We don't want to be rich like the Americans. We wouldn't give up our free health care or our free education. And we don't value fake lips and big boobs, says Tilly Martinussen, a politician in Greenland. Back to the phones here on Talkback. George, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. What a great game last night. I was really happy. I went to bed. It was 2-1, and they clawed back, and my man Jack, you know his last name, came through, and then the Chicago future looks bright.
It really does. I believe is it Nathan Villeneuve or Alex Ferrand, I think, on Ferrand on Windsor is also a Chicago Blackhawks prospect. So I thought of you when I was talking about him last night.
Well, how did he look yesterday? How was he doing?
Both Ferrand and Pridham, Jack Pridham, who scored our overtime winner, looked very good out there yesterday.
You know what? I'm hoping for the best. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome, George. Thanks for the call and the support of our Kitchener Rangers. Huge win last night. Huge win in overtime over Windsor. Kitchener has won 5 in a row. Frank is next on Talkback. Hello, Frank.
Hey, I think Trump and a lot of people are, including myself, are realizing that business boardrooms are different than political boardrooms. And the stuff that he's saying is not flying anymore. And I think that's what's happened. It's just there's too much difference between a business boardroom and a political boardroom.
I think that's a really good point. But if you say the stuff he's saying isn't flying anymore, I can't help but think there's going to be more that flies. Isn't there, Frank? Like, he can't possibly be done with all this outrageous behavior, can he?
Say no, obviously, just based on the past. But I think globally, people are just getting a little bit tired of it and the fighting back. And this term yesterday that was brought to my attention, the taco term, that Trump always chickens out. And, it just made me think of, that's kind of boardroom business tactics. It's not political, thinking clearly with, people in mind tactics. So I think he'll still do some craziness, but I don't think I don't think he'll do anything. Like, it'll just all talk.
All right. Frank, appreciate the call. And taco, Trump always chickens out, is coming up an awful lot today. There must have been several references to that yesterday that I completely missed. Toll-free Jay, my man, you're next on Talkback.
Well, I just wanted to ask a question.
Okay, ask away.
I
I understand that Mr. Marner is now wearing number 93 in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Now, I'm visually impaired. Would you put him in the same comparison as to Mr. Gilmore?
Oh, my gosh, no.
Okay, I didn't think so. I wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir. Listen, I'm going to be a very biased person on that as well, but Doug Gilmore was one of my absolute favorites, and I would be hard pressed to put very many hockey players in the same category as Doug Gilmore. So Mitch Marner ain't getting there, certainly. It's kind of like how I grew up in the world where Wayne Gretzky owned every single record and would forevermore, and is still in my mind the greatest hockey player ever. It chafes my chaps that Ovechkin guy passed him in goals scored, but there's a lot more goals that Gretzky scored, playoffs and other professional goals and blah, blah, blah. But whatever, we'll let Ovechkin say that he's got the most in the NHL, I suppose. Not counting playoffs, of course, but whatever. Gretzky's still the great. There's a reason we call him the Great One, don't you know? An update from the 570 News Center, and we continue with Talkback on your Thursday afternoon. You make the call and start the conversation on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Every day from noon until 1, we open up our phone lines and give you the chance to talk back. And it's been a busy Talkback Hour. There is a line open for you, though, if you want to be a part of it, as we go next to Tom. Good afternoon, Tom.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I'm glad that things are working out okay with the Leafs. You know, they're winning here. They're winning overtime, so they seem to have gotten it back.
I'm a little bit worried, though, about their health, Tom. They seem to be pretty banged up, you know.
Yeah. I don't know, like the other people that have come through, they've been playing good, but we need a full team there. So what do you think about Trump taking over Canada? Everybody was laughing at the beginning.
I know.
But it ain't happening.
I'm not as dismissive as I once was. I still can't imagine under any circumstance that it would happen.
My main thing is, like, the government, we shouldn't spend $3 billion on Ukraine because all we're doing is killing the people. We should, if all the money is going to the politicians there and everything else. So we should look after what's going to happen in the future here in Canada, like with the climate change, a lot of fires, a lot of everything else. So that's my main concern. Nobody's coming up. The Russians aren't coming. The Chinese aren't coming. But the Americans are coming. So I hope we do something to send all those refugees that we have back. So I don't know. We can't afford them anymore. That's my thing. Thanks.
All right, Tom. You bounced around a little bit. You've been beating the foreign aid to Ukraine for quite some time, and we cannot afford the refugees who are here, says Tom. Look, there have been some problems. We know that on both the immigration and refugee files here in Canada. And it is not an inexpensive pursuit, to say the very least. Liam is next on Talkback. Good afternoon, Liam.
Good afternoon, my friend. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you.
I have a bunch of hockey facts I just wanted to bring out. Just to let you know, Wayne Gretzky doesn't hold every single record. Actually, Darryl Sittler has the record for the most points scored in a game. He holds the record with 10 points. He did it on February 7, 1976, against the Boston Bruins, and he still holds this record for almost 50 years now. So that's like one of those things that Wayne Gretzky just didn't have the opportunity to pursue. Also, today's a very exciting day because I'm covering hockey for the Guelph Griffins. and they're playing the Brock Badgers in their annual Frosty Mug game, and it's happening at the Sleeman Center, where the very popular series Heated Rivalry was filmed for ice scenes. But I feel like something that some Kitchener Rangers fans don't know about is that the Boria Salming TV series that was made actually filmed at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium, and they used that rink to pretend that it was the Maple Leaf Gardens. And I don't know about you, but I feel like it's awesome that I've had the opportunity to broadcast and spend time in these rinks. And the thing about it is I'm a big Maple Leafs fan, and I think it's cool to see that the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium gets used to represent such a classic arena. And also, one more thing before I let you go is I want to try on that Sudbury Wolves hat if I ever meet you, because I had interest in getting that hat, even though I'm not a Sudbury Wolves fan. But I tagged someone I know from the organization about getting that hat because, boy, does it look cool. And honestly, I like free stuff.
All right, Liam, thanks for the call. I've been carrying that hat around with me since I got it in Sudbury. And if I run into you at a Rangers game, we'll let you plop it on your head. There's a reason that the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium has long been referred to as a mini Maple Leaf Gardens since it was built. And that's why it was a perfect stand-in for Maple Leaf Gardens in that Boreal Salming TV show documentary that was put together. And I've told you the story before. I was coming out of the rink one night after doing a game, and there was something going on. There was a load coming in. Trucks were out and everything. And I thought, what's going on at the Odd tomorrow? I didn't see anything happening as I was leaving, and I didn't know there was anything on the schedule. So, you know me, I'm curious by nature. I won't say nosy to be nice to myself. I'm curious by nature. So I went back to the Odd the next day, and I just started snooping around. Walk in there like I own the place. And they were shooting the movie, and the crew was great. They actually let me hang out, and I got to watch them shoot a couple of scenes. And they had redone things. They changed the boards, took off the advertising, all these different things to make it look even more like Maple Leaf Gardens for their shots in the show. And yeah, it's super cool stuff. In Sudbury, that's the arena where they shoot the Letterkenny and Shoresy TV show, which I'm a big fan of. And every time I'm watching, I'm like, I know that room in the Sudbury Arena, for sure. As we continue Talkback with Jim this afternoon. Hello, Jim.
Hello, Mike. I was hoping to complain about the clearing of the snow from the roads.
Do it.
I live in Cambridge, Mike, and honestly, we have not seen a plow in our neighborhood since before the Christmas holidays. Usually every winter you're complaining about how you have to shovel out the end of your driveway. I have not had to shovel out the end of my driveway at all this winter. Our roads are like driving on the surface of the moon right now. It is testing the shocks in my car every time I try to leave the neighborhood, and it gets all torn up. And so it's like 2 feet of snow that you're trying to get through. Honestly, we're getting to the point where people are going to have difficulty getting out of the neighborhood. I get that they need to concentrate on major arteries and highways and whatnot when the snow first hits. But when you get to 2 days, 3 days, 4 days later, there should be a plow coming down every one of our roads trying to help us out. I honestly don't know what I'm paying taxes for.
Jim, I appreciate that call, and I appreciate the passion and the case that you have stated. And that last part is what really hits home, right? We had Cambridge City Councillor Helen Schwery on yesterday, and she was talking about that very thing. She said this is one of the core services that a city provides to its residents. This is very visibly and tangibly what you pay taxes for. And if we are not doing our jobs, then we need to figure out why and how we can do them better. And I think Jim's onto something here. Look, I know we got walloped last Thursday, and I know we've had some snow since, but come on. Come on with your coming on. We got pounded last Thursday. What have we had since? 10-ish more centimeters? And we can't get streets cleared in a week's time after another 10 centimeters on top? I know we got walloped. I said that already. How long does it take to clear from the wallop? And then keep going when the dustings come through the week. Before, by the way, we get walloped again on the weekend. I've been watching. Look out on Sunday. Look out on Sunday. I know this is also a factor. When we leave our vehicles on the streets, And Logan sends me an email to that regard this morning as well, to Mike at 570news.com. He sent it earlier today. That is a problem. And we should really be respectful of the crews that are out there trying to clear the roads. Keep your damn car out of the ding-dang way. Like, that needs to be stated clearly. But I'm starting to lean more and more Jim's way here. I'm getting frustrated by the challenges that we've had. And I've got winter tires on my car. I know what's what. The roads are not impassable, but I don't think they are to the standard that we've come to expect. And Jocelyn feels similarly. She shares an email with me to Mike at 570news.com. When you had that counselor on yesterday, I feel she was bang on when she stated essentials before extras. Everybody should live by these words, especially when it comes to salting roads and safety. It's not in the budget, is not a valid excuse. Since the snow started falling in November, yesterday morning was the first time that a company has come and removed the huge snowbanks that were downtown in Elmira, preventing many from parking properly and, more importantly, pedestrians from using sidewalks. So there you go. It feels as though, and I know it's been a bad winter. We all know it's been a bad winter. We've been feeling the badness of the winter. But I can't help but think we're misfiring somewhere here, and I'm not sure where that is. Councillor Schwery in Cambridge is bringing a motion forward so that the city can take a look at what it's doing and how it might be able to improve. Guelph Mayor Cam Guthrie posted on social media yesterday there's an audit coming in February that he's looking forward to. He thinks there's room for improvement in Guelph as well. What are we doing here, Waterloo Region? Honest to goodness, straight up. I know folks are working hard. I'm not saying they're not. I want to know why we can't seem to do the job effectively this year. That's the question I'm asking. Let's go back to the phones. Mark is with us on Talkback. Hey, Mark.
Hi, Mike. Holy smokes, you talk a lot. Oh, my goodness.
You know, Mark, it's a talk show, right?
I do know that.
Okay.
But,
you want me to play music
wow.
instead?
Pardon me?
Do you want me to play music instead?
I love music. You know that.
I know you do.
Anyway,
I just get fired
Mike,
up sometimes. Yeah, you go ahead. You talk now.
Couple of things.
Okay.
You were talking about hockey. Best hockey player ever, Mike.
Wayne Gretzky.
Bobby Orr.
Wayne Gretzky.
Mary Lemieux.
Wayne Gretzky.
Okay, we disagree. Now,
yeah.
The other day, Mike, I was out shoveling, and I slipped, and I sprained my ankle. Everything's fine, but it's very sore. So I've got a snowblower, too. So I limped over to my neighbor, and I said, hey, man, I hurt my ankle. I can't do it. Would you like my snowblower? And if you wouldn't mind doing my sidewalk for me. And he said, of course. So just a suggestion, if people cannot, if they have a snowblower, lend it to a neighbor that doesn't have one and ask them to do your sidewalk.
I love it. Great idea, Mark.
Okay, Mike.
Thanks, buddy. See you later. I know we'll talk again soon. I'll try to talk less. I'm also kind of hoping, because when I got home last night or this morning from Windsor, the snow had accumulated, not a ton, but I'm hoping that my neighbor with the snowblower has been out so that when I get home from work today, less work for me to do. It's the Farwell Show, Talkback on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Every day from noon until 1, phone lines open to you, so we get to hear your feedback on Talkback. Right back to the phones we go. Kyle, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Can I give a little PSA?
Of course.
Whiteout conditions up in Listowel right now. Sometimes some of these places you're playing Where is the Lane? So just make sure, turn on your full headlights if you can, or please do. Not your high beams, but even if you got fog lights with your full headlight system, at least that helps out leave them a little bit more just to see where you are. And take your time. Like I'm averaging right now 50, 55 kilometers an hour on 86, and I'm just relaxed and not stressed. I'm just taking my time, so no rush. But yeah, there is very bad whiteout conditions up in Perth County, so I just want to give a little PSA to everybody. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Kyle. Hey, Kyle, before you go, are you still there? No, Kyle had to go. I wanted to ask about that toothpick thing that Grant was talking about before. I still want to know, transport trucks, toothpicks. I don't know. Do transport trucks transport toothpicks? Say that 5 times fast. Do transport trucks transport toothpicks? Probably, but I didn't understand the reference before. Anyway, next I go to my good friend Kitchener Cooney. Rob Coon, environment candidate. You got some kind of nerve, pal. You got nerve. You know I blame you for everything that's happening right now.
Mike, that's why you put me in the doghouse.
I know. You're such a good guy, Cooney. Like, I give you a whole lot of crap, and you're such a good guy.
It's all good. We have thick skin, and Mother Nature is Mother Nature.
She is indeed.
I'm just looking at the latest now for some of the new information's coming in. It's for Sunday night. The jury is still out, and one thing I would like to make important to the listeners is the computer models can see where weather systems are, like fairly clearly, but if the ingredients that are responsible for the storm are already existing, they're still out over the Pacific Ocean, so there's not as much weather data there as is over North America. So we're just going to have to keep an eye on this thing. There is potential, but once the system comes onshore to the west coast, or the ingredients, then the computer models will start getting a better idea of how this winter storm is going to proceed. That being said, the likelihood of a major winter storm across the eastern states, and this would include snowfall amounts, freezing rain, ice pellets, I think it's going to be a headline maker. The likelihood of that is very high, and there does seem to be a decent chance that the heavy snow, or some of the heavy snow from this, is going to get into southern Ontario Sunday and Sunday night. The jury is still out, though, on how much. But typically, if this system gives a good wallop, and again, another attempt of 25, 30 centimeters here is not out of the question.
Holy cow.
It's still too early to give you some, like an exact amount, but they have potential for that. And a lot of times, a storm following this track that I'm seeing in the guidance, we are on the northern edge of it. We get some snow, but not much. There are exceptions. Maybe this will be an exception, but Mother Nature holds the cards, and we're just the messenger, even if it's from the doghouse.
Could be 25 to 30 centimeters Sunday into Sunday night.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
It's possible. I can't say for sure that will be an amount, but we have to be ready. And if anything, it's going to be pretty windy again. So we've got all this fresh snow, and as your listeners have been thankfully, reporting horrible driving conditions and whiteouts and so on, just the previous one, it's not going to take much for blowing and drifting snow to be a problem Sunday when this thing comes in anyways. Even if we get no snow, I think there will be some drifting and blowing snow causing issues for the roads. So it's just the kind of winter this is old school, the way it was when I was a kid.
Thanks for the heads up, Cooney. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Nice talk with you. You take care and drive carefully going home. It's sort of slow out there.
I certainly will do that. Old school winter for the second year in a row. I thought we were done with winters like this. That's why we call them old school, because they're a long time ago. We don't get them anymore. And now they're back, and they're back with a vengeance. Ian is next on Talkback. Farwell's Force member number 307. Afternoon, Ian.
Afternoon, Mike. Just referring to the toothpicks, I think that's what you put in your eyelids to keep your eyes open so you can keep driving.
I love it. I'm there. Good one.
I love that segment on the backseat driver, but I can't imagine too many women sitting back there not chirping.
Well, for sure. And if I'm the guy, I ain't putting her back there. Thank you very much.
Well, and I don't think your friend's going to live that long if he keeps doing that.
That's what I said. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're still living with her. You're still married to her.
All right. Well, you have a good afternoon.
Thanks, Ian. Great to hear from you today. I appreciate it. Phil is next on Talkback. Hello, Philip.
Good afternoon, Sport. I'm thinking about snow fences. Where the heck have they gone? They used to be all over the place on the highways and, help keep the roads clearer.
You know what? I had a buddy who lives out in the townships, and he asked me that same thing. He says, look, you're a big supporter of our farmers. We talk all the time about driving safely around farm machinery. He said, you tell your farming friends that you're going to stop doing that until they put up proper snow fences. He doesn't think there are enough of them anymore either.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Interesting. All right.
Okay.
Thanks for the observation.
I'm glad you're home from Windsor.
I'm glad I'm home from Windsor, too. Home sweet home, baby. And Andre is going to get the last word on Talkback. Andre, I got like 30 seconds.
Everything is awesome. I love the snow, Mike. I think I'm going to put my skate on, and I'm going to skate on the street today. But just kudos to the Rangers. You said it. It was a heavy match, and we were very responsible, very mature, well managed. I'm very impressed. Have a good day, Mike.
Thanks, Andre. You too. When I say 30 seconds, Andre gives me 23 seconds. Thank you, Andre. I know. I had to cut you short there because we're fresh out of time. Lots of calls on Talkback today. We're solving the world's problems every day between noon and 1. And tomorrow, don't forget, Free Phones Friday. It's our final chance to do this sort of thing before we head into the weekend. So lots of good stuff coming up on the show tomorrow as well, including the story of a man who is making one of the most awesome tributes to his wife. We'll tell you who Brady is. We'll check in with head coach UC Ahokas of the Kitchener Rangers for the Coaches Show, your Friday 4 Roundtable, and so much more. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 9. I invite you to join me then. My name is Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.